Hi, good morning. You're welcome to The Big Issue. The Big Issue is live on 97.3 City FM and indeed ChannelOne TV. We are happy to have you join us this morning. The show is live and interactive as always, and you are welcome to join us via our various social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and on WhatsApp on 020-444-7033, 020-444-7033 or 0549 986-996, and we'll be happy to share your views with the rest of the world. Indeed, this is your platform for incisive analysis and riveting conversation. Three key issues we are looking at this morning. The first one has to do with the sale of the SSNIT hotels, four of the SSNIT hotels which were up for sale. Yesterday, Rock City, which was or is the company seeking to purchase the 60% of SSNIT shares in the hotels, pulled out or withdrew its bid. Late night, SSNIT also closed the matter and said that they were no more in the arrangement. They've discontinued the sale of 60% of their stake in the hotels. What does that mean? Does that bring the agitations to an end? Mind you, before Rock City pulled out, organized labor had resolved that from Monday, every member of organized labor was laying down its tool. And so from Monday, nobody was going to work. Persons in the health sector had a graduated way of laying down their tools, which meant that in a few days, they were even going to withdraw emergency services. The country essentially was due to shut down. But does the withdrawal of Rock City from the arrangement mean anything? Does this discontinuation of the arrangement also by SSNIT mean anything for what organized labor has intended to do? Is this a victory for the Ghanaian organized labor, or it is a disincentive for private individuals seeking to invest in government ventures? We will look at that in some more detail in the next few minutes. Also, there's been some matter between the government of Ghana, or the Republic of Ghana, and Eni and Vitol in their arbitration matter, which went to the International Court of Arbitration. Indeed, it was a matter for unitization. While Springfield felt that its find had some hydrocarbon communication, its find in the Afena field had some hydrocarbon communication with the Sankofa Ginyame field operated by Eni and Vitol, and so called for unitization. Eni and Vitol thought that no, there was not sufficient evidence or data to suggest that there was any communication between the two. Hence, the call by the Republic of Ghana through the Minister for Energy for the two companies to unitize their fields was premature and not appropriate. The government of Ghana through the Energy Ministry went ahead to issue some directives which Vitol and Eni found to be inappropriate. Springfield, which is a Ghanaian-owned company, went to court and in the local court secured victories on almost all matters. Eni and Vitol went to the International Court for Arbitration and also secured some verdicts. We will look at that verdict. That verdict has been the subject of various interpretations. Whilst the government of Ghana, through the Attorney General, is saying that it's a victory for Ghana, Eni Vitol and others in the sector have said that no, it's actually a victory for Eni Vitol. We'll look at the award and see what really it means and what it means also for investment in Ghana's oil and gas sector. We'll also do some politics where we'll look at election 2024. We'll review Mr. Mohammed's meeting with the press and also MPP's grand outdooring of Matthew Opoku Prempeh, doctor, as its running mate, and some matters arising. So these are the issues we have for you today. This is a big issue. My name is Selom Adunu. I'm happy that you've joined us this morning. We'll take a short break, return, provide you some updates, introduce our guests, and then we'll hear the discussion. Once again, you're welcome. Don't go away. You're welcome back. This is The Big Issue. My name is Selom Adunu. Three key issues we are looking at this morning. The first one has to do with the sale of some 60% of SSNIT's stake in some 4 hotels in the country to Rock City. Yesterday, we got notice that Rock City is withdrawn from the arrangement. They have withdrawn their bid owing to agitations and commentary, etc., in the media space and other places. They feel that it does not bode well for the brand image of their company. And so, given the circumstances, unfortunately, they were pulling out, and they did so not happily, but they had to do so for the interest of everybody. Also, soon after that, SSNIT, which is the company dealing with the seeking to sell its shares, issued a statement, actually late night yesterday, saying that they've discontinued the sale of 60% of their stake in the 4 hotels. Before that, organized labor had resolved to strike from Monday across the country, which meant that the country was going to shut down. As we speak, we don't even know the status of that particular action, whether given the circumstances it will still happen or not. Organized labor comprising NAGRAT, TUs, NAGRAT, GMA, UTAG, you know, everybody, the Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, all of those bodies, the Federation of Labor, almost everybody, you know, were part of this, including the Judicial Service Association of Ghana, which meant that the country from Monday could be shut down. But we don't know whether the current state of affairs will still make organized labor go ahead with its intention to strike on Monday. We will see that, and we hope to have some answers on the show this morning. After that, we'll look at the issue involving the Republic of Ghana and Ghana-Eni and Vitol regarding their arbitral award secured over the week. Various interpretations have been given to that. The Republic of Ghana thinks that it has some victory. Ghana-Eni Vitol, also in a statement, claims victory. We'll look at that and see why both parties are claiming victory. And finally, we'll look at some politics, review Mohammed's press program with the press, and also Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's outdooring of Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh as his running mate in the Ashanti region, and all the matters that have arisen therefrom. My name is Selom Adunu. Let me just provide you with some updates. But again, before that, you can join the discussion via our WhatsApp line 0549-986-996 or on 020-444-7033. And we'll be happy to share your views with the rest of the world. Now, the Minister for Employment and Labor Relations, Ignatius Bafuiwa, has announced that the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, NPRA, has approved or had approved the sale of 60% of SSNIT shares in its hotel investment portfolio. The NPRA directed SSNIT to suspend its negotiations with Rock City over the sale of 4 hotels, pending further evaluation and engagement. Answering questions on the floor of Parliament, the Sector Minister confirmed that all due processes have been complied with.
Came up with a directive, but I will appreciate if my brother, my colleague, really read the directive from NPRA. It said it needed to be furnished with all information relating to the sale of the hotels, which SSNIT has since done that. So it wasn't like a direct decision that SSNIT should not go ahead to do anything, but then SSNIT can only go ahead when NPRA, which is the regulator within the field, had actually certified that they had seen all the documentation and the processes, and they think that they are good to go. Well,
Honorable, please conclude your answer.
yes. So as a minister, I can tell you on authority that NPRA has since indicated that they had seen the process.
All right, so that's the Sector Minister, who is the Minister for Employment and Labor Relations and also has responsibility for pensions, answering some questions on the relevant subject in Parliament earlier in the week. That engagement in Parliament came as a surprise to many because about 2 weeks ago, we read from the NPRA, which is a regulatory authority in the pension sector, that they had asked SSNIT to suspend ongoing negotiations in the transaction to offload 60% of its stake in the 4 hotels to Rock City, and until some things are done. So we expected, or everybody expected, that once that decision was communicated, that directive was communicated in a press release to everybody, if there's a change of position, that position ought to have been communicated as well using the same medium to the press or to the people of Ghana. So the minister went to Parliament and told Parliament that MPRA had okayed the arrangement, and so SSNIT was going to go ahead and offload its shares in the hotels, which meant that the transaction had been approved by MPRA, and the transaction to sell the hotels to Rock City was going to go ahead. Organized labor was surprised and so quickly organized itself and arrived at some decisions or conclusions. And one of those conclusions, or the main conclusion, was that they were going to lay down their tools from Monday, the 15th of July. That raised a lot of concerns. And so sometime yesterday, we read from the Rock City company, which is the company in the center of it all, that it had withdrawn its bid. Let me read portions of the statement from Rock City directed at the Director General, or addressed to the Director General of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SSNIT, and attentioned is Acting Director General, Mr. Kofi Osafo-Maafo, that they had withdrawn, or they were notifying them of the withdrawal of the bid. The letter, which is on your screen now, says, "Notice of withdrawal of bid. At all material times, we believed that we had participated in an internationally competitive bid and were happy to have learned of our success, having edged out the 15 other organizations that participated in the process. It therefore came as a surprise, or as a total surprise to us, that some of our stakeholders have raised concerns about your decision to seek strategic partners for these hotels. We have also taken note of ongoing media discussions on your decision to seek strategic investors for these hotels. We have also taken note of your recent media engagements and press statements ostensibly defending your decision to seek a strategic investor. Flowing from all the commentary monitored and the undue negativity that attended this commentary, we feel you have not done enough to engage all your stakeholders, leading to perceptions that we don't want associated with our brand. We believe that such negativity is not only injurious to our brand, but also jeopardizes the success of the investment we intend to make in these hotels. Therefore, we are writing to inform you of our decision to withdraw our bid and discontinue our pursuit of this investment opportunity. Finally, in the interest of accountability and transparency, we consent to you releasing all or whatever parts of our bid documents for public scrutiny or public same if it should become necessary. We wish you continued success in your endeavors. Thank you. Signed for Rock City Hotel. So that was what we heard yesterday. And so after this, the question was, given that the key participants in this, Rock City, had served a notice of withdrawal of their bid, would organized labor go ahead with their intended strike? Organized labor said, well, they have no problem with Rock City. Their major issue with SSNIT, the ones seeking to offload the shares. So Rock City is off per the letter, but SSNIT could decide to give it to somebody else. And so they wanted to hear from SSNIT. Without that, they were going to go ahead with the strike on Monday. Now, late night, whilst men were asleep, SSNIT also issued a statement. And the statement from SSNIT was signed by its board chairperson, Elizabeth Equia-Ohene. It reads, discontinuation of sale of 60% stake in hotels. The board and management of Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SSNIT, it's on your screen, wish to inform the public that the process to divest 60% of SSNIT's stake in the hotels has been terminated. We wish to assure pensioners, contributors, and the public of our commitment to managing the affairs of the trust prudently for the sustainability of the pension scheme. Signed, Elizabeth Ekia Ohene. And we know Elizabeth Ohene is the chairperson of the SSNIT board. So this is where we are with the events. Let me introduce my guest for this segment. We have Dr. Richard Salome, who is General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, also a member of Organized Labour. We have Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, Member of Parliament for North Tongue, who started all of this. Brian Champong, who is the Minister for Food and Agriculture, whose company is Rock City, that was seeking to get the shares in the hotels. And we have Franklin Kujo as well joining us. Let me start off with Dr. Richard Salome, who is the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, which is a member of Organized Labour. Hello, good morning, Doc. Welcome to the program. Hello, good morning, Doc. You may want to unmute so we can hear you. Hello, Doc. Hello, good morning, Doc. Dr. Richard Salome. If you can hear me, you may want to unmute so we hear you on Zoom. It appears we are having some difficulty hearing Dr. Richard Salome, and we are working the details out, the technical details out to have him back so he can hear us and we have the discussion properly centered and the discussion started. But if you are just waking up from some sleep or coming into town, we've been dealing with a matter in the past 5 months or so, a matter that started in 2018 but really came to light some 5-6 months ago. The matter is that SSNIT, based on its own assessment, decided to offload its shares in some hotels, originally 6, some key hotels, including the La Palm Royal Beach Hotel, the Labadi Beach Hotel, the Ridge Royal, and some other hotels in the country. The claim was that they were not profitable and that SSNIT could no longer be investing in them because they were becoming a drain on their portfolio or resources. And so the strategic decision was made to get a private investor and offload 60% of the shares in those hotels to that private investor. And that private investor hopefully will turn the fortunes of those hotels around, and SSNIT hopefully will make more money. And once SSNIT makes more money, then it means pensioners have more money for their retirement. It so happened that a number of companies, we are reading about 15 of them, participated in the bid. They eventually arrived on Rock City Hotels. Rock City Hotels is owned by Cabinet Minister Brian Champong, who is in charge of the food and agriculture sector of our country. He's also member of parliament for Abetifi. So given that he won the bid and the amount of money he was offering, etc., I mean, that did not sit well with a lot of people. So the Honorable Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who is member of parliament for North Tongue and who has been reputed in the last couple of years for undertaking exposés on key government transactions, etc., got wind of this and started serializing the details of the transaction. And he actually also wrote to SHRAJ, petition SHRAJ, to investigate the matter in respect of conflict of interest. And you know that matters of conflict of interest are the preserve of SHRAJ. Wrote to SHRAJ to deal with matters of conflict of interest, etc. And so that was the matter. And sometime along the line, there was a major demonstration held to galvanize support for this. They called it Hands Off Our Hotels demo. Quite a number of people attended that demonstration, led by Okudzeto-Ablakwa, the minority, the Gandagbe people, and some interested groups. Well, I'll pause with the narration and speak to Dr. Richard Salome, who has joined us now on a better line. Hello, good morning, Doc. Richard Salome, welcome to The Big Issue.
Good morning, gentlemen, and good morning to your listeners.
Yes, so I don't know whether to say congratulations to organized labor or to ask whether this is victory for organized labor. Rock City withdrew its bid yesterday, and we are also reading from SSNIT that they have also terminated the processes to offload shares in those hotels. How will you consider this victory or something that was to be expected?
Well, we do not want to look at this in the terms of whether it is victory or it is success or organized labor versus anybody. What is important is the fact that organized labor has made some demands, and organized labor is the one that actually owns the funds that SSNIT holds in trust and invests on our behalf so that we can have some decent pension. So when we make demands like this and have gone to various lengths to the extent of meeting the president of the land, and still the process seems to be proceeding, organized labor needed to speak with a definite one voice on this matter, and that is what organized labor met and did. If they have listened to us, I think that is all well and good, and we won't look at this in terms of victory or success on that matter. What is important is then to now sit and consider the issues. We haven't at any point targeted any message of any sort towards Rock City or any other entity or person for that matter. So if you read the organized labor statement and subsequently the statement from Ghana Medical Association, we are clearly dealing only with SSNIT, who has the mandate to sell or administer the funds on our behalf, and has proceeded to engage in the process of offloading 50% of its shares in the 4 hotels, which we have expressed strong views against. And so Rock City withdrawing its bid is actually material to our decision. And so the fact that they withdrawn their bid does not mean that another entity or person cannot come on board and now buy those shares. And that is why our call was clear and simple, that they should terminate that whole engagement to sell the 50% shares in the hotels. So for us, if that is done, then our roadmap will be, we'll meet again as organized labor and then communicate whatever decision we have to our members. You mentioned some communication in the night from SSNIT on their social media pages, which I haven't had a thorough look at. But of course, if you look at the statement that is being sent around, it's not a formal communication. And I believe it knows what to do and the proper thing to do. They should communicate formally to organized labor. We will review that and then convene a quick meeting to decide our next steps and then communicate them to our members and the public.
I see. So what really is the situation? I mean, SSNIT, custodian of the facilities, I mean, who are running the facilities in trust for Ghanaian workers, including myself, say that they are unable to keep investing in these hotels. Of course, we understand all the discussion around the personality of Brian Champon, who owns or who is a beneficial owner of Rock City Hotel, etc. Are we saying as organized labor that notwithstanding the clear admission by SSNIT itself that it's unable to hold on to this portfolio because it's unprofitable, we still want to hang it around their neck and force them to operate them, even though they say they are not making profit? Is that a decision? We can't include or invite private investors to help turn the fortunes of these hotels around? Is that a position of organized labor?
Well, again, let me make it clear that I do not want us to be bringing in Honorable Brian Champon into this matter, because we have not in any form or shape mentioned him or drawn his person or Rock City for that matter into this discussion. So let's leave him out of this discussion.
But look, it's an important part of the discussion. You know, his hotel is the one that is purchasing the shares. And of course, I know you have no issue with them because your issue will be with SSNIT. And SSNIT are the people holding your assets in trust for you. And so all your matters are directed at SSNIT. So that's on the one side. So that's so important. But we are saying that without, so irrespective of who the purchaser of the shares is, you know, are we saying that even though SSNIT itself has said that they are unable to hold on to the portfolio because it was draining them, we still want them to keep it? Is that the position of organized labor?
So again, you've ended up making my point that regardless of who is purchasing the shares, the point is plain and simple. They should stop the sale. Now, we then proceed from there to do a detailed analysis of why those hotels are not profitable. And of course, we have learned that it's not even all of them. Because the fact that the hotel is not profitable needs to be analyzed properly, look at the root causes, and then understand the issues and then prefer particular solutions. And still, it's not the only solution. There could be change of management. There could be a transfer to some management contract for some experts to run the place properly than selling the whole shares or assets for that matter. So there are many ways this issue can be dealt with. First is to stop the sale of the shares, and then we do a proper deep dive into the issues, and then move on from there. So organized labor is not saying that, oh, if the assets are making losses, we should just keep it there and make losses. That's not what organized labor is saying. First, we need a pause, and then we can proceed from there.
I see. So, of course, this matter has come up a number of times, but I think it's opportune to start talking about it again. The fact that you had 4 members from your fold on the board of SSNIT. What does this say about your 4 members on the board of SSNIT? This transaction, we understand, started in 2018. And is it a position of organized labor that they never knew that this transaction was ongoing, or there was any bid or there was any discussion like this on the table? What were your 4 members doing on the panel, on the board, you know, for the past 6 years that this matter has been tabled and things have happened?
So, Salom, I do not want us to dwell on this aspect too much. Of course, there may be mistakes that have been made in the past, but it does not preclude change. And so, let us see this as an important moment where we look at the issues properly. Even government reviews these decisions. Even City FM and City TV have had to review, look at itself, rebrand. It does not mean, for example, that when it was City TV, everything was bad about it, but certain strategic decisions will be taken. Organized labor is learning from some of these incidences and will put the mechanisms to continue doing the advocacy that we do even better and ensure that our representations on these entities like the boards of SSNIT, etc., do what we want them to do at all times.
I see. So for persons who are home and wondering whether they should go to work on Monday or not, who are your members, what is the communication? What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to go to work, or given that SSNIT is also written to confirm the fact that they are discontinuing the sale, they should go to work? What should they do in respect of the communique sent around by organized labor?
Well, as a member of organized labor, we have not had any contrary directive or decision from organized labor. Neither have we been seized with any formal communication from SSNIT. So for now, all these communications people are citing on social media are rumors, and I believe that SSNIT itself knows the proper thing to do to formally communicate properly to another properly constituted body like organized labor. If you saw our statement, it was properly dated, duly signed by all the relevant parties before they were dispatched. Same as with the Ghana Medical Association statement. We believe SSNIT knows what to do if it needs to reach organized labor. So as we speak, and at the moment, status quo remains
I see, and that's notwithstanding what the obvious consequences of the intended strike will be. The whole country shutting down from Monday, there will be serious economic consequences for a country which is ailing economically. Organized labor doesn't seem to care about that.
Well, Shalom, there are a few things that we do sometimes in this country. The power and authority of the state is vested is in the people and is vested in the people, and we only delegate it to our leaders to exercise on our behalf. Today is available, tomorrow Sunday is available, probably even the early morning of Monday is available. If the people should sit aside and not call on the powers that be to do the right thing, then they may not be deemed as victims, but actually winning a compensation, whatever the consequences are. But be that as it may, you note that in power release, taking cognizance of the fact that such an action has certain implications, you realize that we have graduated hours. And so it is from 15 to 17 OPD services where emergency services will be fed. It is subsequent to that emergency services, and then after the 22nd of July, this process, that we have agreed to withdraw all services. And so it is not our wish that this should go on. I think you should be asking the other side, and that is state, and for that matter, government, to actually do the right thing by formally communicating their decision and providing the evidence of same to organize labor for us to quickly reconvene and then take our decision and communicate same to our members and then the public. So I do not think the onus is on organized labor at all. Our demand is quite simple and straight. They should just do the communication properly, and I believe organized labor will meet and communicate our decision back to the various unions and then to our members and the public as well.
Very well. Doc, we are grateful for your time this morning. We may come back to you again as the discussion grows. Thank you so much in the meantime for speaking to us on this matter. And should I say congratulations to organized labor for pulling this off?
Thank you, Salom, for the opportunity. And I'm sure you do business as well. And we hope the media as well will come on board and then champion the cause of workers henceforth. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll talk again. All right, so that was Richard, Dr. Richard Salome, who is General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, member of organized labor. They also issued a statement calling on their members to begin strike from Monday, but because they are a health service organization or health service association, they graduated theirs from OPD, inpatient, emergencies, etc. But eventually, they were going to pull out entirely. But given the circumstances, now we are not sure. But he says that until they hear officially from SSNIT, they are going ahead with their intended action on Monday. So is organized labor itself. I mean, all the bodies, NAGRAT, the teacher unions, I mean, NAT, CCT, JUSAG, the Federation of Labor, ICU, I mean, all those labor groups you can think about have all said their members should strike from Monday. Kingsley Amwakwa Boydu is joined us in the studio. His government spokesperson on legal affairs. Is a member of the MPP communication team.
Communication team and legal directorate, not government.
He's a member of the legal directorate of the MPP. He joins us in the studio whilst we discuss this matter. You're welcome, Kingsley.
Thank you very much.
And we're happy to have you. I know you followed the recent matters in this arena. The SSNIT, statement which came late last night before the Rock City's letter withdrawing their bid and all of that. Before that, organized labor, issuing statements informing the public or government that they were going to strike from Monday and all of that. How do you put all of this together?
Well, thank you very much and good morning to viewers and listeners. And I think you've corrected it, so I'm not speaking on behalf of the government, but I'm part of the legal directorate of the MPP government and a communications member. And I think I am happy the way is being resolved. Before the last person you spoke, I was of the view that the strike is called off, because I think when the letter from Gold City was sent, the impression was that was the end game, and so if you achieve, then they would withdraw. And then the spokesperson, I heard a spokesperson say that SSNIT should come out to say that they are not going to sell at all, which they have come out to say they're not going to sell at all, because that was what we were looking for. If that is the case, then I think the rest, as in communicating formally and all that, will take place. Speaking from a legal practitioner position, we are about to go, the Superior Court is about to go on break at the end of this month. And this is when a lot of cases and a lot of applications are being heard before they go on break. And so it would not augur well for JUSAC to go on break. And I think for several other sectors, whatever the situation is, no one anticipates a strike. From my party's position, there's an element of politicking and element of campaigning which is not riding on any credible concept or any credible idea that you want to sell to the people so they vote for you. There's an element of we don't like these people, and it is that emotive element of it that look at what they are doing, they are messing up and whatnot. And there's a huge political capital that can be had out of that. And it looks like when we are trying to position our politics in the confines of this is my idea against your idea, and mine is better, and I'm able to break it down to the people to vote for me. This is also running on parallel grounds with that. And so the quicker we resolve this, the better. And I believe it's on its way of being resolved amicably, so that we get to the nitty-gritties of what is MPP offering against what NDC is offering, and how do we move from there. And I'm even happy because you cannot say that all members of these JUSAG and the Ghana Medical Association and all that are, if you like, of the opposition party. They are not. You can't say that. And so the earlier we quell this, solve it, the communication is made to them satisfactorily, we can now go back to the issue of if we are not going to sell, if SSNIT is not going to sell, what next? How do we ensure that those ailing hotels come back on its feet? How? And then there will be a broader consultation discussion on that to resolve that. I think that is the main issue. Unfortunately, along the line, he became Brother Champon, which is not the situation. The situation is that they decided at their board level meeting that they want to offload certain shares. And then Brian made an application, all right? So if we are not offloading those shares, then what? Is there a management issue? How do we secure that? And then again, on the SSNIT's representation on the board, what to happen to that? Is it that their voice was not loud enough? What was it? So these are genuine, discussions that must be had without any political permutations coming out of that. So if we can resolve this quickly, then we come to, yes, we still have, and we're all workers, and we will one day go on pension. When we get there, how do we ensure that our contributions we are making, tier 1 and whatnot, are increased so that we can be comfortable in our retirement? You see, so that is a discussion that we are not going into yet. And I think that the earlier we go into that, the better. So the hotels that are not doing well, what are the main issues?
Yeah, so the fact that, people have said that there are other things you could do rather than offloading your shares.
As in,
as in
SSNIT could do.
Yes, SSNIT could do.
Yeah, but when you say you, then let's still distinguish between that. Yes.
So as in SSNIT could do, but SSNIT is government, more or less. SSNIT is an agency of government.
Exactly.
So government appoints its government appoints its director general. Government has a lot of representatives on the board, etc.
So take a decision.
Yeah, so government has
to reflect the interests of the pensioners.
Yes, but I'm saying that it will be difficult to divorce SSNIT from government, even though I get what you're saying. But the decisions of government weigh heavily on SSNIT and SSNIT's director general a number of their board members are appointed by government. So, so SSNIT, you know, there are a number of things SSNIT could have done rather than selling off the shares. And whilst those options were not exhausted, and then now here comes, you know, a politically exposed person, you know, winning the bid, etc., with quote unquote what people have described as questionable terms. I mean, it's quite usual or normal for the public to behave the way they are behaving or they behaved. Is that not the case, or you don't agree?
No, I don't agree at all. I don't agree at all. You see, let's try to separate Brian Echampu from this transaction and look at this transaction. Was this the best decision they could have taken? If not, because the people on whose behalf they acted as a board.
So Brian, you're saying was just a victim of circumstance?
Precisely.
I see.
But then he is politically exposed. So there's another arm of the discussion as to whether politically exposed persons can
take advantage of opportunities like that.
Precisely. I'm glad the way you put it. Take advantage of an opportunity, not take advantage of the fact that they are in government or they are politically exposed. You see, so the more we move away from those, then it doesn't become personal. You see, because when it becomes personalized, then we take him back to 79 and all those, and that's not the discussion we want to have.
Very well.
The discussion is, these are the assets of SSNIT, all right, and they were not doing well. Was it the right decision? If it's not the right decision, what is now the right decision? And representation on it. Is it so small that even if they oppose it, they can be overridden? And again, another discussion to have. Do we want politically exposed persons to take advantage of transactions, whether they are in power or not? They are politically exposed. Whether it could be that they are not in power, but they are so related to someone in power, because we have the brother of this and the sister of that, and so that's another discussion to be had without any personalization of direct individuals, because then we're not doing ourselves any favors.
Very well. Let me speak to Franklin. Franklin, good morning. Welcome to the program. You've seen Rock City's notice of withdrawal letter. You've also seen SSNIT's letter stating that they've discontinued the arrangement. They've terminated their decision to offload the shares to anybody. Will we say this is a victory for the Ghanaian worker, a victory for the people, or you think, as a free market person, that this stifles private investment into government, arrangements or assets or companies?
Right. Well, good morning to yourself and a good brother in there. Good morning to listeners and watchers.
Good morning.
Viewers, sorry. Look, I don't know how to characterize this as a victory. I think it's victory for, if you like, I don't know how best to describe it, but I think it is a whole lot of misunderstanding of the entire enterprise of divesting, of wasting assets of the state. Basically, wasting assets of the state, not just wasting, but actually costing the state a lot more. I think, what I thought SSNIT should have done was actually to hold a town hall meeting and put all the beats up there and then walk people through exactly how the process, what the station of life of these hotels look like. I keep telling you, my friends, valuable friends, who have been looking at these assets for the past 5 years, have been telling me these hotels are not doing well at all. In fact, just yesterday, I was actually the chairman of the board of the LAPAM, what's it called? Not because of this hotel matter. I mean, he's a friend and all of that. And he said, look, they can't even pay light bills sometimes. Most of the time, it's a state that more or less superintend pays their workers, and the workers are even agitating for more money. So I think the SSNIT board should have done one clever thing, which is to walk people through sort of a town hall meeting, walk people through exactly what the state of these hotels really look like, and what bids have been offered, and then how valuation is done properly. So I think if those things were done, then the question about the sale would have been addressed. Now the question about who is buying it, which is a very entirely political matter, because clearly speaking, it is politics. Come on, let's not quibble over it. It's politics. Beyond also the fact that, well, we could also argue that yes, the person is politically exposed. That's why I'm saying that it is politics. So I would have done probably the reverse. Look, instead of SSNIT having these small meetings with these stakeholders and trying to explain itself, all the people who wanted, put them in a room, let them ask questions. Because after all, it's their money, right? And then they ask questions. It's like when you go to an AG meeting you're a shareholder, even if you have 2 shares, you still get letters. I mean, I remember buying some 50 shares or so in the bank. One of these mining companies. 50 or so, was it 50 or 100? 150, yes. And every time you get voluminous, what's it called, material to read. And I want to ask myself, this 150 cents, I don't know how much it's worth. Recently, when I checked, it was just 2,000 Ghana cedis. But I kept getting every material, they give you, invitations to come for their AGM meeting, and all of that. So that should have been the best way to explain these things. But you see, SSNIT's hands are also somewhat tied. They are government, the government appointed, but at the same time acting on behalf of the rest of the citizenry. And quite frankly, I did not begrudge them that much, except of course to say that I think they misunderstood the deluge of opposition to this whole thing. And so for me, as I retain my original grounds that I would never have even offered that type of money Brown was offering for those hotels anyway. I would never have done it, and probably retain the workers. Oh, I'll let them go. I'll restructure the entire enterprise. We have a leaner administration to manage Lapam all these hotels, for instance, and then put them out for sale. I told you not long ago what my good friend, libertarian comrade, is doing in Argentina, right? Argentina has been owing for many years, right? And today Javier Milei put the equivalent of Ghana News Agency. He put it for sale. He turned into an advertising agency that they can bring money. What's this business of having all these state entities that are wasting away anyway? I told you the last time that when Tepe was in power, NDC, Tepe was finance minister. The government set up the Ministry of Labor. Forgotten, was it Labor at the time? Forgotten the man's name. But they put up a committee. In fact, PVB was even first basically chaperoning us. A committee to divest one of the wind state agencies of the payroll. And we did a lot of work. We met with Ghana Standard Authority. We met with so many, Cape Coast University, we met with universities, we met with so many government entities. And they could tell you, in fact, they could project, you'll be surprised, they could project revenues, expenditure for almost 5 years. And I was astonished to learn that at least these entities that were supposed to be on the state's payroll were actually going to do quite well. When we put them to the strict test, that look, project your revenues, think outside of the box, how are you going to raise revenue, how are you going to manage, they'll tell you, we'll downsize, we'll rationalize, we'll project, and I still have some of those reports, beautiful reports. We saved close to 230 something million Ghana cedis at the time. If these entities, some of the entities we met were going up the payroll, nothing happened. My good friend Furiata came, he threw those things. Nanado, he threw it away somewhere. He wants large things. He likes big things. Big government, big daddy spender, 100 ministers, 120 ministers. Yeah, daddy never know. Then you run a very huge enterprise like this. So you never be interested in divesting state entities of the payroll. That's the problem with my good friend Nanado. So you have a situation where you should have learned from the best technique. You never took all those notes. I don't know what they do, those handing over those anyway, but I know they handed over those notes. Right? So I'm just telling you, Salom, I think we should, another this we should have a proper conversation about state-owned entities and exactly how to manage them. Because look, most of them are just wasting our money. SIGA, I don't know, maybe SIGA should, I hope they're doing quite well. Was it my good friend Joseph Kujo? I don't know whether he's still minister for PPP. There was this ministry that Kufado created. This Mamo, he created things. He created a ministry, PPP. My good friend Joseph Kujo was
Yeah,
handling it.
is
And
it
I think
public? That ministry is still there, I think. Joseph Kujo,
No, it's public sector.
public sector reform or something.
Yes, Minister for Public Sector Reform.
Yes, public sector reform.
look. Anyway, when a senior minister, Savomafo, was handling the public sector reform, his secretariat, the only work they actually did was to actually correct grammar from the previous the policy paper, but they had so much money. Anyway, that's why it was shut down. But I'm just saying that when Joseph Kujo was there, he did something. He started ranking these. He told me we should work together so that we rank all these enterprises according to how they perform well and all of that. I said, Kujo, go ahead. My namesake. Brilliant idea. But you know my position on these things. You rank them, then what? First, last. Now, Amugusu Jiska. No, yank them off. Get them off their payroll. That's the only way they can actually start returning money. I mean, I'm surprised that a center-right thinking party like the MPP would have run the largest, biggest Big Daddy government ever. If all these state entities wasting away, and SSNIT particularly. Anyway, I was happy we managed to divest pensions reform. We divested at least half of the. It's not even half. It's about 8%, right? If you look at how much money goes to the second tier people, you recall Imani did a lot of work in unburdening, by releasing those funds to the second tier operators. I would have wished the reverse was the case, so that SSNIT would have had much less to manage than and then the second tier private sector pension operators having the largest share. Of course, they have to be watched. I'm not saying private sector is the mean and all of any civilized organization or country, but there, at least there'll be less pressure on the appointees or workers of these entities who take very good decisions. But anyway, but they must be regulated. So, look, I don't know whether to say, yeah, boy, yeah, we've won. You've won nothing, because if you go back there now, these assets are going to continue wasting. SSNIT, LAPAM will have to cover 1 million. SSNIT will have to cover workers' money, 1 million Ghana cedis every year, yes, to pay for light bills, while workers agitate for salaries and salary increases and all of that. That's what I'm saying, that look, this whole thing about the private enterprise growth thing, it's not for everybody. If we all want to live large at the expense of the state, well, let's say so. And if we want to run a socialist enterprise, let's say so. All those contestations, I've never heard any one single argument that suggests to me that the value place was wrong. Did you hear that? Of course, people have suspicions that maybe it was not done well. This is it. I have come a bit up close to these hotels. In fact, I recall one of my valuer friends said, as a result of as some sort of form of compensation, whenever they go to value some of the four hotels, he's normally giving the free accommodation. Their wife and children are asked to come. Recently, when they went to do the valuation, when they went, the rats, if some of the places, the place was so run down that the wife said, wow, look, they said, get 1 week accommodation for free. I said, no, don't worry, thank you. They went and slept so well. People just are not close to some of these things. And I think, as I said, if the state is happy, if we are happy that we should continuously rely on the state and waste away, let's see how this will be. How do I put it? How the hotels will be. You hear the argument that, let's change management. Those things have never worked with state enterprises anyway. I mean, I don't know whether we think that by simply changing people, when the morals of the state institutions essentially are that Benjamin and you understand? So it's not everybody can live at the expense of the state. Nothing will happen. So for me, let's go back to the table. I think SSNIT should do a good take on. Actually, SSNIT should organize a stakeholder or a town hall meeting and put together all the bits, explain what the situation is as of now, and decide whether, okay, instead of doing these international bidding, open tender, when many companies across the world bidded, we rather have a restricted one. We'll limit it to just Ghanaians. And then you and me can go and then buy maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 shares. And then we all feel good that we own SSNIT. We own a part of the business. But as I know, SSNIT has never returned any serious value on most of the assets that they have anyway. So for me, I was happy to let it go. That's why my position had always been from day one that I have seen it up close, and I feel strongly that those should go. You know, people make the analogy: why is Labadi doing well? Why was he added to basic economics and basic management science? If you are buying properties, if you are buying a business, why should you just buy all the waste business that are not doing well? If it's a matter of negotiation. If I want to buy what's called a number of businesses that are not doing well, I need to probably find out if there's one that is doing well that we could also add to it anyway, and we can discuss the value anyway. And you see, it's not as if the person is buying, they were buying 100% of the enterprises. They're just buying 60%. That's why I say that buying 60% of those rotten hotels is quite frankly silly. And I told Brian, I don't even know why you're buying these things. So look, anyway, it's not for us. Let's go and happily, we can all go take turns and go and enjoy there, have fun. In fact, we'll do a roll call. We should do a roll call. This week, Selom's family.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Look, so for me, I've seen it too, my brother. I told you, when I worked with Tekwe, we formed that committee. There were problems. Initially I jumped on the committee because they were interfering as well. But I was brought back, and you can ask Smith Graham. Smith Graham was the fair wages boss at the time. Even Brand, that's how I actually knew Brand, because Brand at the time was also, I think, chaperoning, working for some entity like that. And it was marvelous. We had data, in fact, we met these institutions. I recall, was it Ghana Standards Authority, FDA? Brilliant presentations, world-class analysis. And we asked questions. If we took you off, how are you going to survive? They said, oh, we'll do this, we'll change fees, we'll be more efficient, we'll be leaner. And trust me, I saw that up close. So anybody who tells you that the state, these entities cannot be run by themselves, if they're actually giving world-class management by themselves and taking up the payroll, they will not do well. They will definitely do well. And that's the spirit with which I supported the whole diversification, the divesting of SSNIT assets.
Very well.
That's my position.
Great. Very well. So Bawa is joining us. Edward Bawa, who is Member of Parliament for Bongo, is joining us. He's in actually on our second topic, but I just want him to have a minute on the SSNIT matter.
A minute?
No, I mean, just
okay.
This is a brief on the
okay,
SSNIT
so
matter.
thank you very much. Just as you said, I came here for the other topics you were going to discuss. But it's only fair that I make a few comments on this. The issue of diversifying, what I call it, state entities or public entities in itself is not new to this country. In fact, we have a typical example of, for example, Guelda was divested, and then if you look at the percentage of Ghanaians who have participated or made private participation in that, you see that it's been doing well. So the issue, and these are shares that are held by Ghanaians, and so it is not the case that getting people to buy interest in public assets is something that we should generally frown upon. That is a general statement. But there's a specific issue that is being dealt here, and that has to do with the fact that you have public assets that are being divested, and then you have a member of government whose company is involved in it. Usually, in situations like this, the first suspicion that will come out will be issues of ethical considerations, whether there are issues of conflict of interest and other things, whether public trust will be an issue that you have to look at, whether transparency will be an issue that you look at. So these are suspicions that will come out. For example, if it was like Salom, you were going to buy, nobody would even raise his head. We would just look at, if you meet the criteria, why not? Because they know that the power and the influence you may have maybe just be zeroed down to what you have proposed and not the office you come with. And so these were some of the concerns that were being raised. Now, in fact, these suspicions have now finally been concretized by, and I'm just going to just summarize because there's no, has now been concretized by the transaction advisor's report to the board that has confirmed some of the concerns that, what do you call it, the public had on this issue. And I just give you, just as a comment, you know, the whole transaction is supposed to be around $60-something million. Now, in the proposal of Rock City Hotel, they had indicated that they were going to do an upfront payment, an initial payment of about $30.4 million, was it $30.8 million? And the other was going to be paid in installment for about 2 years, 24 months. Now, the transaction advisor now looked at what the objectives of SSNIT was when they took the decision to diversify, and then as to whether the proposal that were made by Rock City really met the objectives. Because obviously, if I choose to go and sell this, there must be an objective why I'm selling this. So based on that, whatever proposal you will give me should fit into the the objectives. Now, if you look at the report that was sent by the transaction advisor to the board of SSNIT, and I'll just read just a few comments there. Comment 1, they said that the proposal offers an installment plan, that's the installment plan I was talking to you about, with no confirmation of availability of funds. Payment is based on the cash flows of Rock City Hotel, with no credit enhancement from any bank. 2, there is no indication of ability to pay. 3, the arrangements for the transfer of the shares do not satisfy the objectives of SSNIT. Transfer of the management and ownership will take 2 years. And 4, this is the most important part. The 2-year installment plan was not made available to all bidders. And you remember that the point I was just trying to make here is that people had suspicion as to whether people were treated fairly and whether everybody was given the right opportunity to really bid. This is the transaction advisor's position. I'm just using this because there were many of them, and maybe later on I'll share the document with you. But this goes to confirm that not every bit of this transaction was done overboard. So then you then ask yourself, why was the state, or maybe for that matter, state, bold enough to still go ahead with this transaction? And that's how these conclusions will come in. But where I find a bit problematic, and I will say, because once I was seated in my car waiting for this segment, I heard my colleague make some argument. He says that, look, that this is a period for elections, and therefore people are interested in what ideas do you have to govern this country going forward, and whether your ideas are superior to your opponent's ideas.
Rightly
and
so.
that's what we should be looking at. But this is purely an emotive thing, and it is not based. This was the argument you made, and I listened to you in the car. Look, what is more important than my future and in terms of my retirement? What is more important than that? As a contributor to the fund, I will want to see the next government how you will be able to secure my future, how my contributions are being taken care of. That is an election matter. So for you to have reduced the argument that this was political and that you can't divorce my future from your political aspirations, your political promises that you'll be giving to me. Because at the end of the day, today I have the strength to be able to go to work, and at the end of the month I will get something in terms of my salary. At the age of 60 plus, I am asked to go home and I have no job to do. But in fact, the arrangement has been made in such a way that in the course of my working life, that I do some contributions to a body known as SSNIT. SSNIT invests that very nicely and make sure that they get good investment returns, so that at my old age, my medications that I need to go and buy, the food that I need to eat, that those things are secured. Then I have a situation where the current transaction seems to be jeopardizing that, and you tell me that that's not an election matter.
So I don't know.
Just moving on.
I don't know how you heard what I said.
Moving on.
No, but you made assumptions.
Moving on Monday.
And your assumptions are wrong.
Yeah, moving on Monday.
Your assumptions are so wrong. You're
asked its
flawed.
members to.
I am
to
saying
lay down
that
their views. No,
this
I
may
mean,
run on parallel. No. You have done it. No. Because now we have. What about our team? What are you saying?
I'm moderating the program, so I'm directing.
Exactly. But then you cannot be making these assumptions so that we can move on.
As that its members stay home. Given that the matters and things have almost come to a conclusion, you think organized labor should still go on that tangent, or you think they should quickly make a call for us to go back to work on Monday?
So basically, I was not privy to what were the things that informed what they call it, organized labor's decision to do what they were doing.
Because of the transaction, yes.
But when I was listening to Dr. Salome, when you're talking to him in the camp, he had indicated that in as much as they've all read these issues in what they call it, in the public domain, there has not been a direct communication to them as a body. And I believe that they want to be working with those things, those communication that, for example, if they know that SSNIT has officially reported to, or maybe told organized labor that, look, the challenges for which you wanted to embark on an industrial action was because you felt that there must be a termination of this particular transaction. We have done that. And so there's no need to go ahead. Then they can do that. So for me, it is for organized labor, it is for SSNIT, and for that matter, government to encourage SSNIT. Because yes, people always indicate and say, they draw a line between government and SSNIT. Look, yes, SSNIT is a public institution. From the board up to the management, it is government that is appointed by government. And so you cannot for a moment indicate that there's a... So if government is minded that, look, this is a potential action that will take place on Monday, they should be able to tell SSNIT to communicate with them. And if that is done, fine. Very well.
We take a short break. When we return, now we delve into the matter of the Republic of Ghana-Eni and Vitol Arbitral Award. This is the big issue. Don't go away.
You did not allow me to react.
Hi, you're welcome back. This is a big issue. We are live on 97.3 City FM, obviously on ChannelOne TV, and also on our socials. We are happy to join you, to have you join us for the discussions. We just moved on from the issue of the SSNIT and Rock City matters and the fact that SSNIT has discontinued the transaction or its interest in selling off 60% of its stake. Rock City earlier withdrew its bid to purchase the shares. And again, prior to all of that, organized labor had threatened to go on strike, indeed issued notice to the public that from Monday, workers were not going to work. As we speak, that notice still stands. Let's move on to the next matter, which is the ENI Vitol Ghana arbitration matter, whether or not Ghana got a good award or otherwise. Indeed, the Attorney General is claiming that Ghana did well, or Ghana won, and also ENI Vitol is also claiming similar things. What are the issues? That is the matter we want to be looking at. And indeed, the question also is whether the Republic of Ghana Attorney General ignored the warning signs from the beginning. Of course, ASEP and IES and co, in the beginning of all these matters, warned that the way the Ministry of Energy was going ahead with the unitization discussion was not proper. And so what happens really in the sector is that when there are discoveries and the discoveries share a common hydrocarbon communication or channel, there is the need to unitize, the two finds to maximize the recovery of the hydrocarbon or the crude, and also to reduce the expense on the process. So ENI Vitol has been drilling for some time now. Indeed, they signed a contract sometime in 2008, started drilling around 2011, and sometime in 2018, Springfield, which is a Ghanaian-owned company, also got a contract and then made a discovery in the Afina field in the West Cape 3.2 area or contract area. So in the process, they realized that the seismic data they had suggested that there was some hydrocarbon communication between the Afina field and the Sankofa field in the OCTP contract area where ENI Vitol was drilling. And so that meant that, there should be some unitization. The two sides should now put everything together and then share the proceeds. ENI Vitol didn't want that. They said no, there was not sufficient data to suggest that the two fields were connected by any stretch of the imagination. They went back and forth. The ministry, by the law, had to step in, and so the ministry made directives and said that there should be unitization. Commentary on the site suggested that because Springfield was a Ghanaian-owned company, Ghana was seeking to nationalize the process and the find. But of course, that was just side commentary. The matters went back and forth in the local courts. Springfield was successful all through. And then ENI Vitol went to, or triggered the arbitration clause in the contract or the agreement they had with the state. And so the award for that was what came this week. And portions of the award, let me just read that to you quickly. Portions of the award, as captured on page 144, suggest that for the foregoing reasons, the Tribunal 1 declares that the Republic of Ghana breached the petroleum agreement by issuing the unitization directives in the circumstances in which they were issued. 2, declares that each party shall bear its own cost. 3, orders the Republic of Ghana to pay to ENI Ghana Exploration and Production Limited and to Vitol Upstream Ghana Limited 189,900 euros for the cost of the tribunal, and SCC dismisses all requests for relief, etc., etc., etc. So that is what the parties have been seeking to interpret in their own sense. The Attorney General of Ghana issued a statement claiming that they were victorious or they were good in the process. ENI Vitol, or ENI, also issued a statement also stating that they had some victory in that. They said that the International Arbitral Tribunal has concluded that the unitization directives were wrong and unlawful, and that the Republic of Ghana's action breached Ghanaian law and the terms of the OCTP petroleum agreement. The ruling is also without prejudice to ENI and Vitol's right to claim damages if the wrongful directives were henceforth enforced. So that's a statement from ENI on your screen. So the reason why ENI went through the arbitral process, in essence, was to get the arbitral tribunal to declare the unitization directive by the minister as unlawful and improper and not in accord with the agreement and Ghanaian law. And they seem to have had that. That is what we'll be discussing now. And we have Edward Bauer, who is well-versed in the matters, Member of Parliament for Bonga, member of the Energy Committee of Parliament. Kingsley Amoakwa Boydu is still here, is member of the Legal Director of the MPP and member of the Comms Department of that party as well. Dr. Theo Champon is an economist, political risk analyst, and he is also an energy expert, I should say. Franklin Kujo is president of Imani Africa, and they are all on this. Gentlemen, once again, welcome to the program. I'll start off with you, Bauer.
Oh, I thought you started because they were the one who issued this.
No. You are in Parliament, you have some understanding in the sector and all of that. So kindly take us through, give us a brief summary of why we are here and what the arbitral award says.
Thank you very much. Anybody who has followed this sector would have known that for some time now there has been this issue of the dispute between ENI Vitol and then the government of Ghana, GMPC. Let me put it in one side. And for us who are keen observers of the sector, we're very worried because since 2019, when we peaked in terms of our oil, as we speak now, in terms of our production, we have reduced, our production levels have reduced to about, the reduction is about 37% thereabout. That tells you that over a period of time, the assets that we thought we had, that we could dispose of and make revenues to take care of areas like health, what have you, have all been diminishing. And also faced with the issue of energy transition. Every country is vigorously trying to exploit its hydrocarbons, such that at least we'll make the maximum use of it before, as a group, we all transit from that area. So anybody who's a keen observer of this is worried about that. Now, on 3 or 4 days ago, when finally the issue, because just as you had indicated, the issue had even gone through the Ghanaian courts over a period of before ENI Vitol decided to seek what they call it, the arbitration tribunal to make a pronouncement on these matters. So about 2-3 days ago, when the Attorney General issued his statement and indicated that Ghana had won the case, and that Ghana was not supposed to pay some amount of the 7 billion. You remember that 7 billion issue? Ghana was not supposed to pay that amount. All of us, it piqued the interest of all of us. So all of us decided to go and look for because this was just a statement that was issued. So all of us decided to go and look for the ruling itself. So obviously, because this is a very transparent process, so we all had access to the 145-page document. Now, when the Attorney General makes a statement and says that, look, we won the case, so I then ask myself, well, what did we take to the court? Because that is more important, because usually you will know what the appellants, because you are the lawyers,
what reliefs
they went to ask. And fundamentally, you know, per our petroleum laws and other things, the government of Ghana has the right, if all the criteria are met, to ask for unitization. Indeed, this is not the very first time that unitization would have happened.
Yes.
You know, the Jubilee field is purely based on unitization.
Yes.
But usually, the unitization thing has to meet some criteria. The first thing is that there must be some single accumulation of petroleum that straddles between 2 fields. In a very simple layman's language, I have a borehole here, I have another borehole here that we have sunk. Now let's assume that I'm looking for water. I'm just telling you I'm looking for water. And that at the end of the day, the data of the amount of water I have there suggests that there's a reasonable communication between the 2 boreholes. That on the strength of that, I can see it. And so if I'm able to establish that, then I can say that to be able to take up that resource, let's develop the 2 fields that where the boreholes are. I'm just using a layman's to be able to optimize the recovery of that water that I have made. It's the same thing with this. So you had a situation where you had a Sankofa field, and then you had a Afena discovery that had been done by Springfield. And so government, in its thinking, felt that these 2 particular, what's the name, fields, had some reasonable communication. And on the basis of that, they had met the conditions to unitize. ENI thought differently. So that's how they went to court. Now it is history that we know that the tribunal in this award had indicated that the government of Ghana had not established the conditions under which you can call for unitization. Indeed, you will realize that when you have a discovery, assuming that I just go and I drill and I have a discovery in itself doesn't show anything. There must always be an appraisal. The appraisal will then establish the commerciality of the discovery. And so you will then use that as a basis to know that. Then that's how sometimes they will come and tell you that, oh yeah, we've made a discovery, and when we did appraisal levels, and that's how oil thing is. First, there's exploration, there's discovery, there's appraisal. Then after the appraisal, when you are sure of what you have, then you then give what we call the POD, the plan of development, for the minister to approve. Then you then develop the field and then start producing. So basically, that is the process that you go through. Now, from what the court had indicated, it was very clear that that had not been established. And I'll explain to you why it has not been established. I had a problem, even from day one, and anybody who was in the sector said, look, yes, government's major objective must always be that we must optimally recover our resources when we discover them. But when you optimally recover it inures to the benefit of the state, even though it also inures to the benefit of the IOCs or the partners within that particular field. It inures to the benefit of the state because government will get its own share through the GNPC thing. Government will have taxes to be able to take. and all other issues of royalties, and they will get all those things to be able to pick up from there. So anytime there's an optimal recovery of petroleum products, it happens. And indeed, it is the basis for which normally government would call for unitization. Government, when, and you recall that this particular directive for unitization was based on a letter written by Springfield. It was not like government in its own independent data felt that, look, I've realized that this is the case, and therefore Petroleum Commission, who is supposed to be my technical advisor, give me the information as to how this is going to be done. It was Springfield that actually wrote the letter to government asking for unitization.
But was that bad? I mean,
no, I'm not saying it's not bad.
Okay.
But government should have, because in the first place,
government had the data too.
Yes. No, but government should have, to a very large extent, say, look, you want to unitize. Are you able to tell me what is the recoverable amount of the reserves that you have? The only way you can do that was to have asked Springfield to do an appraisal well, to at least drill an appraisal well and do an appraisal of that.
Which they did.
The court in its own thing, the appraisal processes in itself had not demonstrated that there was that. It is, I'm not the one saying it, I'm just telling you what the facts are. Indeed, as at yesterday, we had opportunity of meeting GMPC, because GMPC was supposed to be a party to this particular, because it was GOG, GMPC against Vitol. That GMPC's own report that they had given to the Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Energy, and the Petroleum Commission's own letters that they had given to them, indicated that yes, there was enough evidence, and then announced grounds for government to have gone ahead to give that particular directive. But they didn't have evidence to it. The data was not there. That's the first part. It wasn't. Because if the data was there, that wouldn't have been an issue. Two, the process itself, E&I had indicated that, look, they were not transparent in even terms, because if I'm supposed to unitize with you, I have some reserves, and I'm happy that you have some level of, you teach, how do you call it again?
I'm a petroleum lawyer.
A petroleum lawyer, so you know. So you have a situation where, look, I have had the discovery. I have a fair idea about my reserves. I know how much I'm going to make over a period of time. I don't know what you have. If I don't know how do you ask me to unitize with you? Because when you unitize, it means that we are supposed to first develop the field together as one.
And share the
Two, and share the process based on what reserves we are bringing. But if I do not have a fair idea as to what you are bringing on board, and that's why E&I, in this the release they were asking the tribunal to grant, said that there was a tendency of moving their assets to another party because they had no fair idea as to what Springfield was bringing on board. So for the Attorney General to have issued that statement and said that we had won, and now this is the case, he's zeroed down on the 7 billion. If you look at E&I's request to the tribunal, E&I said, look, should government go ahead to unitize, we're going to be making a loss of about 7 billion. And so if government insists on going to unitize, then government should pay us 7 billion. This was a request by E&I. In the tribunal's ruling, they said, look, we are dismissing this 7 billion request because the unitization has not actually occurred. However, you reserve the right, should government decide to go ahead and unitize, to come back to make a request for that. So how do you consider this as a victory? I don't know what I'm making sense. How do you consider this as a victory? And so I think the Attorney General's posture just goes to, again, darken his recent past reputation. Because if you have a situation where you are struggling on your very reputation based on a particular case you are trial now, where people think that you have behaved unethically, then suddenly there's a ruling. And you know that this is a ruling that will be, and in fact, if you go to page 144 of the ruling, it is clear that the tribunal says the government of Ghana had breached the provisions under which, if you recall, the ruling was not based on what the high courts and other things had done in Ghana. They said that, look, those things, they did not have enough facts to be able to deal with that. But they were dealing with the provisions in the petroleum agreement. And indeed, it is those provisions were the only ones that both parties had agreed in the terms of signing the petroleum agreement, that should there be a dispute, bring it out to us. So that was what they zeroed their argument on. So for you to have come and issue a statement like that, again, dents the image of that particular organization or that particular department that you are heading. Because today, as I speak to you, you are a lawyer. Master, you went to your law school, went to Makwala. Can you honestly say that what the Attorney General said is representative enough of what the ruling was? It was a question of deceit. It was a question of trying to spin. It's a question of not relying on substance. And again, it goes to the core of the integrity of the individual who has the
I'll let Kingsley deal with that in a bit. But let me speak to Theo Champon. Theo Champon teaches energy. He is a man of many parts, actually. He is an economist, a political risk analyst, you know, and he does many things. And so let me speak to him on this. Dr. Theo Champon, welcome to the program. I know you've seen the ruling. I know you followed the discussion right from the onset. How should we be interpreting this particular award from the tribunal?
Good morning, and I just to sound check if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
It's good to be here and to see my colleagues in the studio, including Kingsley. There are so many dimensions to this case, and I think Edward has actually done good justice in trying to explain the genesis and some of the technicalities with the borehole analogy, and that's absolutely right. I think for us to analyze this properly, we need to look at what were the issues that both parties, took to court. So if you actually go to the 145-page document, specifically in section I or paragraph 19 onwards, you see the claims that were made by both parties. So on the claimant side, the claimant being ANI and Vitor, they asked the arbitral court for certain specific reliefs, and there are 9 of them in all. And I think for the purposes of this discussion, it's important we maybe read some of them, or maybe your producers can project that on the screen if they've got the document. But the first and important relief that they sought for, which is why they actually went to the court in the first place, was a relief, and I'll read this, declaring that the first respondent, that is the government or the Republic of Ghana, breached the petroleum agreement by virtue of its conduct in issuing or refusing to withdraw or prevent reliance by third parties on the unitization directive that they had issued. The second relief they sought was, again, quote, a declaration that the second respondent, so that is GMPC, also breached the petroleum agreement by virtue of its conduct. And then the third one was to order that the first respondent notifies, that is the Ghanaian High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court, so the earlier cases that have gone there, that the unitization directives were issued in breach of the petroleum agreement. And then in the fifth claim, basically, these are the consequential orders, as the lawyers will say. Order that the respondents pay damages in an amount of $915.8 million or any other amount as the tribunal sees fit, and then it goes on and forth. Now, you can now come to the Ghana side of the case, and this is in paragraph 20, and I'm taking my time to read this because it then forms the whole basis of the discussions that we'll make going forward. In paragraph 20 of the ruling, 20A talks about the respondents, also the reliefs that they sought from the arbitral panel. The first one says, quote, the respondents have not breached any obligation owed to the claimants, and the claimants are denied in their entirety without prejudice. And then B, should the respondents be found to have breached any obligation owed to the claimants, then 1, the claimant's request for damages is denied without prejudice, and the C, claimants have rather, so basically instead of Ghana-Eni and Vitol breaching the petroleum agreement. Now the government of Ghana is countersuing and saying in the sea that rather it is Eni and Vitol that have breached, right, the petroleum agreement. And then they also ask for damages. So the government actually asked for damages to the tune of $84.15 million in D of the case, and then so forth and so on. And then when you actually now look at the substantive ruling that the court made, it is very clear. So you can read paragraphs, I think 420 onwards, and then even the 144. It is very clear. And the court says that Ghana and GMPC, they breached the petroleum agreement. That is a substantive issue. The consequential issue of the award and the damages, for me, it is immaterial, and I'll come to that in a moment. But the reason why they went to court in the first place was that you were trying to force them to unitize without having gone through the right scientific processes. In this particular case, the evidence that is available, and ENI doesn't dispute this, you can look through the documents and all of that, is that the two fields or the two accumulations, right, straddle the same fairway or channel, right? So like Edward was saying, you have two boreholes you want to drill. It is possible that they are all, the water is in the same column. But it is not enough in the sense that you actually have to go further to do extra work to confirm authoritatively, right, that even if you have these two separate boreholes, indeed they are connected together and they are one and the same borehole. So there's no need to drill two holes, but probably rather you only drill one and you share the proceeds amongst the parties. This is the bit that ENI challenged in court, and that is really the basis for all of this dispute, right, in the first place, that you can have two fields that are in static communication. And interestingly, if you actually look at the GMPC report on which some of the unitization directives were issued by the minister, some part of the report, and I'd like to again quote this here, important, in the executive summary on page 2 of that report, right? It says that reservoir studies conducted using data from both blocks showed that Afina 1X Cinnamonian Reservoir appears to be very likely in static communication with the Abdip Sankofa Reservoir. So there's an element, and you see the wording there, appears to. It doesn't say that they actually are. Yeah, and that is just static. But to actually prove that the two fields actually are in pressure communication, you have to actually do what you call the dynamic communication test. And you can only do that properly by doing an appraisal well, and then use that as the basis to actually say that, okay, we've done all these, we've gone through all these scientific processes, and with the appraisal drilling and the test results of that appraisal drilling, it is absolutely clear to us that both of the two fields are in dynamic communication, not just static communication, even though they may be in the same channel or the same complex. And the court actually agrees with the position taken by ENI and Vitol, that Ghana did not do or follow the right processes. And the extension of what that basically means is that they breached the petroleum agreement, specifically section 26.2, that gives them some stabilization provisions, and basically says that the state and its assigned parties cannot take any action that in a way would make any and its partners lose out. That's basically what it is. Then the court also then said that, okay, we have found that the government and its parties breached the agreement. So basically, if you want to go ahead and scientifically do this unitization, you have to come back to the table and you have to do the right thing, which is that you have to start the proper appraisal processes, including drilling of that appraisal well to prove beyond reasonable doubt that indeed the two fields are actually in dynamic, right, communication. But then the court now said that the consequential orders which ENI and Vitor were claiming, the bid for the damages for the loss of earnings to the tune of $915.8 million, that one, the court struck it out. And this is where it gets curious, where you look at the Attorney General's press statement, that rather we emphasized more on that rather than the substantive issue of the loss or the declaration that you actually breached the petroleum agreement. In any case, the court also ordered that the bit of the Ghanaian claim, because remember, Ghana also countersued, and they were also claiming for $84 million. The court also did indicate that, again, ENI and Talo would not be paying that to Ghana. So it's neither here nor there. The bigger issue is that we attempted to force a party to unitize without going through the process. And then the offshoot of all of this, like Edward was saying, and those of us in the industry have been saying for the last couple of years, is the industry has basically stalled. You don't really have any new oil field or new production that has come on stream in the last few years. If you actually look at various statements that government officials made in 2017-18, leading up to our first competitive bidding process, right? That we ordered for, we did for some blocks. We should have have been producing well in excess of 400,000 barrels of oil a day as a country, right? Currently, we're doing just about 130,000 barrels from a peak of 190,000 barrels in 2019-2020. So it does not look good. And it has not looked good for the industry for a very long time now, because a lot of investors or would-be investors have been scared away as a result of some of these, policy mistakes and incoherence that have happened in the industry for the last, few years. ENI, as we speak, is actually moved next door in Cote d'Ivoire, and they drilled a few years ago, made a big discovery, and they're making major investments there, whilst next door Ghana we're struggling with the industry. I meet investors all the time. You talk to them and tell you, hey, Theo, Ghana, we're not touching it, because you guys don't seem to know what you want or what you're about. So these are very serious issues. The upstream industry, with a lot of the enthusiasm and a lot of the support many of us had a few years ago, has not been as we speak currently. And it's even going to be a bit more challenging going forward with the issues of, the energy transition and things like that. So for me, look, we've shot ourselves in the foot. That is the bottom line, that we should have followed the right processes, which we didn't. The court has ruled. There's an opportunity now for the government and ENI and its partners to sit down and then work a way out of this. But there's no way out without doing the right thing, and the right thing being doing the proper appraisal testing and appraisal well drilling to confirm that indeed the two discoveries are in dynamic communication and not just static communication.
I see. Interesting. So given all that you've told us, what will you say to persons who think that because Springfield, which is in the center of this, is a Ghanaian-owned company, the state of Ghana appears to be working in a way to support its own? That is a discussion generally. I mean, the fact that it has been victorious in all the matters it has taken to the local courts, etc. And now here we have the International Arbitral Award, not in favor of Ghana, etc. And given what international best practices say about the requirements for unitization, etc., and it's clear from the arbitral award and what ANI has been saying all along, that Ghana did not follow the procedure. You know, what does it say about the claim that Ghana is seeking to push this in support of Springfield, because Springfield is a Ghanaian company? Is there any credence in that?
I've heard people make those assertions, right? And you actually look at the ENI press release, they use a number of words, right? That anything or any process, in fact, let me read it in paragraph 3 of their press release. The third line says that Eni and Vito have consistently maintained their willingness to assess the case for and against unitization if the process were conducted, 1, fairly, 2, transparently, and 3, in line with best international practices and Ghanaian law. And I think this is instructive, right? My position is, I don't mind if we want to support local companies, right, and to build capacity and own part of the concessions. After all, the money would stay in Ghana rather than moving out into other jurisdictions. That nobody disagrees on that. But you have to do it in a way that is fair to all parties. It is not as though Springfield, or indeed it can be any other local EMP company, are the only players, right, in town. Yeah, there are other investors that have also made multi-billion-dollar investments off the back of these discoveries and actually employ Ghanaians and supporting the local value chain with your local content, right, obligations and all of that. So whatever you do in terms of trying to support, you know, one local party versus, let's say, the foreign entities, quote and unquote, you have to juxtapose the fact that these companies also have made investment. And the key test then has to be, are we doing it in a fair manner? Are we doing it in a transparent manner? And is it consistent, right, with international oil field practices and also consistent with Ghanaian law? That is the key thing, right? And in this instance here, it is very clear that the way we went about it, regardless of Springfield, regardless of whoever it is, was not fair, it was not transparent, and it was not consistent with either international best practice or even aspects of, you know, Ghanaian law and the petroleum agreement that were signed with, Eni and its partners in that instance. And that is really what it is, you know, in all of that. Let's be fair to all parties. Let's be consistent in our approach and not rather try to sideline them as though they have not made investment and they also don't employ Ghanaians.
Very well. Great. Let me bring in Kingsley. Kingsley, so we saw the Attorney General's statement. Given all of that, the award says, especially the fact that the government of Ghana breached the petroleum agreement by issuing the unitization directive, etc. Why was the Attorney General saying that Ghana more or less, you know, was victorious in the process?
Well, I need to lay a background to this.
Yes.
So we're looking at Act 919, and sections 2 and 4 guides every process. In fact, that's the object and the management of resources. So what's the object for this? And that's the law that guides it, you see. And I'm saying this because they seem to have said that it breaches the agreement, all right? That's arbitration seems to have said that it breaches the agreement. And I would have loved it if they draw on the act itself, because the agreement is subsumed by the act or responds.
But the act. The agreement was signed sometime in 2008.
Yeah, I mean that's another issue as to whether when you have yes, and then they started operating 2000. There's another legality as to when we sign an agreement and you change your law that guides whether it has retrospective effect and all that. We can go into that, but then you'll be transporting me to the classroom, which is what I do. I teach petroleum law and natural resources law. But so that is it. The Ghana's interest is the safety of the operation, the security, sustainability, efficient petroleum activity. So the efficiency of that is what gave the minister, and it's in the act as well, that when it straddles two fields, all right, then you order, or he may order unitization so that they treat it as one unit. Now, we have moved on from just straddling the fields to whether or not, as he puts it, there's communication, all right? Then we've moved on from just communication to whether it's static or dynamic. That's what my brother Theo was saying. And so the act, probably we should have an LI or regulation that pushes it to when it is determined that there's a dynamic communication, then we order unitization. But the act as it is doesn't break it down to that level. And then, so to answer the question as to whether Ghana is protecting a Ghanaian, I would say that the matters that went to court was not this. The matters that went to court was a preservation of funds.
Yes, in the Ghanaian courts.
The Ghanaian courts, yes. Now, there are textbooks that says that if the communication is dynamic, then you need to go to unitization. Now, it has been affirmed by this determination, all right? So going forward, we all know that this is what will compel that. Now, in the Ghanaian case, it hasn't been determined whether it's dynamic or not. And so I think going forward, that analysis has to be made. That scientific determination has to be made. I agree with that. Now, if you look at the relief sought by ENI, and I always, you see, even they themselves, the presser they released, they said they are still in Ghana, and so it is not a jubilant, a strongly jubilant.
No, they have investment in Ghana.
Precisely.
So once they have investment in Ghana, they are here.
Precisely. But I'm saying that it wouldn't, it's not, if you like, it's not a shout on the rooftop that you were wrong and I was right and whatnot. That's not the message they've released. And if you look at the AG's release too, he is saying that what they wanted to, they have not been successful at that. And clearly, you can see, I mean, if you look at, and I don't want to bore.
So when is it day?
No, but you mean ENI?
ENI,
yes,
exactly.
but what they wanted was the fact that they wanted the agreement, they wanted a determination that portions of the agreements were breached in respect of the unitization.
No, they wanted more than that.
Yes. Yeah, it was one of the things.
But they wanted more than that.
And that was key because they were challenging the unitization directive.
No, they wanted more than that, you see, and let's be clear on this. They wanted a declaration that there's a breach of the petroleum agreement by virtue of the conduct of issuing or refusing to withdraw, or prevent the reliance on third parties. All right. Now, then they wanted, I mean, it's a bit interesting to me. Order that the first respondent notify the High Court, Court of Appeal, and Supreme Court that the unitization directives were issued in breach. I don't see, because so there's a determination that that's not found in any of our laws.
Yes.
Then order that they should notify Springfield that they've been breached. I think those are the main issue is that they're asking for $915 million. And that has not been granted.
No, but was that the main issue? The main issue was about the unitization directive, was that not? And that the award,
claims
there were other claims.
Were emanated from the major
precisely,
claims.
Yes. And the court says that that those claims have not been founded. All right.
But the court did say that the manner in which the award, the directive.
The point I'm trying to make is that you cannot claim victory in this when there's a clear path that needs to be taken, which is the next stage we are going into. That is why the court has said that he's not awarding costs. If they have taken any step, if Governor Ghana has taken any step in the unitization order, then they can now calculate whatever they've lost. It doesn't absolve them from taking that view. So we are saying that, or the government is saying that the claim you brought has not, the money you wanted has not been awarded. That is a claim you are making.
Yes.
You see, so, and I'm being careful in these matters because we need, much as we need a local content aspect of it, as in we are not unduly protecting a Ghanaian, but we are giving him, offering him all the support we need. we are also encouraging those who want to come into this space to invest. As my brother Theo said, there are several other spin-off investments and expectations and transactions on the back of this deal. Okay, so we need to also protect all the respective or respected interests in place. So the jumping on the AG was misleading and whatnot. It doesn't augur well for the industry.
But I think the AG statement was all-encompassing. Did it reflect the
but
spirit
the AG
of
is
the
saying,
award?
AG is saying that the amount they applied for, it wasn't awarded. That's what AG is saying.
So why did you tell us? You see, the main claim was that your directive was unlawful. It was in breach of the provisions of the Petroleum Agreement.
That's not the main claim. Otherwise, it would have said based on this. No, it has made several other prayers.
For the foregoing reason, the tribunal, one, declares that the Republic of Ghana breached the Petroleum Agreement by issuing the unitization directives in the circumstances in which they were issued. So you see, when you look at the back and forth between ENI and Springfield, and then the ministry at some point, it was all about the directive. They were saying that the data on which the ministry relied to issue the directive was insufficient, or there was no, they did not have sufficient grounds to do so. And so they had called for the data. And so there were some confidentiality agreements, etc. They were to execute, etc. They had called for the data so they can also look at it. But that data was never forthcoming, back and forth, back and forth. And it got to a time, Springfield had to go to court. And all of those things happened. The ministry had to issue directives and everything. So they've been consistent in their claim that the orders or the directives for unitization were premature, if you like. And that is what the arbitral award or the tribunal is saying.
But I've already laid the foundation that from the act, if we cannot say it's premature, from the act, we have now evolved from when the straddles unitize and to a much more detailed point where you have to unitize. So from the act, you cannot say that.
Wait, hold on. Franklin is speaking. Let me see what Franklin thinks. Franklin, I mean, quite a very technical discussion. I don't know how you see this, and you also tie that in with what you think this means for investment into the sector, vis-a-vis the whole talk about energy transition and how the big investors are trying to move away from investment into fossil fuels, etc. Just tie that in for me, as in how this affects the investment climate in the sector in Ghana, how outsiders see this.
Well, I mean, you listen to the experts, and I think it is important to make a fundamental points about Ghanaian political bigmanship. This whole thing about I'm big, I have to win at all costs, I have to do that type of behavior, which we apply to policy making in this part of our world, doesn't meet any basic standards in the international, probably more civilized world, really. Look, this matter could have been easily solved if the AG had taken its time to actually just read the things you have been writing, read the things Bauer, read the things Esap Imani. There's been a lot of work on this matter. So the least you could do was not to be carried away by Amewu and the energy minister, who is now the presidential running mate. Because these two were gung-ho, including GMPC, that we are cocksure, let's go ahead, against all the scientific evidence adduced by this gentleman that you've heard so far. No, not at all. In his usual brusque manner, win at all costs, Takashi, we are going there, we'll show them, we know the law. Those things don't work there. Now, clearly, you've been exposed.
We were taking there.
You should read the ruling. In some aspects, it's as if a school teacher talking to school kids. You should do this. My own good friend Mesa was also cited. Did you know? Do you understand what the law says? He said yes. Do you believe that your minister had? Say yeah, I believe so. You could have done all of this. You saw it. You were reading material. You ignore everything else that has been said by even. What about what your own Ghanaian civil society actors and thinkers like you have been talking about? No, not at all. You see, this question you asked me about investor confidence is critical. As Theo tells you, He meets people, they tell them, look, the way people are behaving here, and look at all the economic indices. Look at the competitive economic indices, not by the IMD, which is, I think, the latest kid on the block. Almost all the, whether it's the World Economic Forum, World Economic Forum, doing business reports, all of this, including even World Bank's own institutional policy index, that is the quality of policy making in the country. Almost all these indices we are tanking. All the major indices that talk about government effectiveness, government openness to ideas and regulation, and all, we are tanking in all of them simply because of this behavior, which was essentially saying to any that had invested heavily, borrowed money on the back of this investment in the World Bank support, 7 billion, that because you thought that, there's been the experts are calling it dynamic communication, a communication between two worlds. So because of that, don't even do any work, don't appraise, don't spend money, look out for more, whether there's more oil. Just go ahead, take 55%. They should relinquish 55% of their assets. Who born dog? Me, I'm going to raise $1 billion, sweat money. Then you just sit down, you don't do any work. Usual big man, I know everything. Yeah. Bang, 55%, bring it. Even a champion wouldn't have thought of that. In those times, we are collecting the thing by force. This is expropriation without using a gun. That's exactly what the AG was prosecuting. And the world would have none of those kinds of things. So I'm sorry. Again.
I think we lost Franklin briefly. We'll get him back. But let me take a short break. When I come back, I'll hear from Bauer. I'll hear from Theo, his concluding remarks. I'll hear from Kingsley. And then we'll move on to the last topic, which is very political. This is the big issue. Don't go away. Hi. Welcome back. This is the big issue. We are looking at the ENI Vital Arbitral Award and matters arising. Whether Ghana won, ENI Vital won, whatever the case. But it's emerging that it does appear that everybody has a part in it. And so everybody claimed what they would claim, even though some of my guests think that it was curious that the AG will come up quickly and write a statement that felt like Ghana had won big time, when the fundamental or the substantive reliefs being sought was essentially about the propriety of the directive for unitization, which the arbitral court said was not proper. And so that's where we are. Let me come to Bauer. He has some thoughts on the matters going forward.
Yeah, so Salom, I think that basically if you look at all watchers of what they call it, the industry, there were some specific issues that had been raised to the Ministry of Energy. That if you look at the process, it lacked transparency and procedural fairness. And this, everybody spoke about this. Everybody felt that the criteria that was being used, there was no evidence to support it. That was made clear. Everybody knew that there was no sufficient appraisal done to be able to move forward. Everybody knew that. Everybody knew that on the strength of that again, you were therefore bridging what they call the petroleum agreement. So we knew all these things. Now, we felt, and this was what consistently industry watchers were doing, telling people, look, it is not the first time that we are unitized. Indeed, our very first field is a unitized field of the deep water tunnel, and then the west
Talo and Cosmos.
Yes, and then the west Cape 3 points. That was so between Cosmos and the Talo. So we knew all this, and we drew the attentions to this. Again, look, you may, but I think that if you listen clearly, you realize that the government just felt that, look, after all, what can happen? We are the owners. Yes, you are the owners of what they call it, the resource. But you see, it must be done. We operate within a legal regime. And that legal regime, particularly when at the time of signing the petroleum agreement, you have submitted yourself to the fact that section 26.2 of the agreement, that anytime there's a dispute, I can go and seek, redress in an international arbitration. So we should have been minded by some of these things so that we are not embarrassed as a country as we have done. Look, you would realize that, look, if you see, particularly in the energy sector, you know this one that the power agreement that they gave us about 140 million fine. If you recall, is it the Ghana Generation? You know that Ghana Generation Power Authority, something like that. Yeah, the one that they just they were supposed to do 140 million dollars as a penalty for abrogating that particular agreement. Consistently, the Ministry of Energy and the AG's department, they don't do due diligence on some of these things. They get up, they think that because yes, you can, I can go to court. You can use all the things that you want to use and win your case. I may not have the opportunity to go to an international arbitration to go and seek redress. But you can't do that when it comes to dealing with multinational organizations. Because any multinational who comes into your country will also want some particular protection because of particularly in an industry where the investment is capital intensive. So it becomes an issue. I think going forward, look, one, we must clearly understand that we are running behind time. Theo made a point, and this is a point that initially I just about the issue of what do you call it? Now, what ENI is doing in Cote d'Ivoire. Beyond just what ENI is doing in Cote d'Ivoire, one of the reasons why ExxonMobil, which was a big player within the industry, decided to move out of Ghana, even though they had come. If you recall, when ExxonMobil came, they had to even bring the petroleum law and other things for us to amend just to be able to accommodate ExxonMobil. One of the reasons why ExxonMobil left Ghana was because of the lack of clarity in our legal regimes. It was one of the things. Two, and ExxonMobil had what it took to be able to, for example, deal with deep water. That was ultra deep. Because the technology is said that our current players within the industry in Ghana do not have it. But they had the decision to go ultra deep. But by virtue of lack of clarity in our policy framework and our legal decision, we had a challenge with those things. You see that look, this particular discovery that had come up, as we speak now, for close to almost 3 years now, there has not been $1 invested in it again, because they needed the finality of the ruling on this. Meanwhile, we are here running to IMF looking for $3 billion, and that we could have exploited this particular resource if we had followed the right thing. The last point I want to make is about Springfield. Indeed, I am one of the people, I am an advocate of value retention in the country, whether it is in the mining industry, whether it is in the petroleum industry. Indeed, our experience in the mining industry should even guide us to find a way of ensuring that there must be value retention. And so one of the things will have to be, for example, the issue of local participation. Yes. I'm not talking about local content, but participation in terms of equity stakes. So if you have even a Ghanaian company, and luckily enough, Springfield, the petroleum agreement and that thing was signed under the NDC. If you have a company like that, yes, government, it is incumbent to find a way of protecting Ghanaian businesses within the industry. Say that the Ghanaian players become the captains of that particular industry. It is legitimate, and it is something that every Ghanaian should support. But in doing that, you do that in accordance with law. You do that in accordance with best practices. You do that in accordance with just being fair to all the players within the industry. This is exactly what the government did not do. Government just decided that, just like in any other sector, they don't give, sorry, what I was going to say, they don't care as to who is involved. They don't respect anybody. And so that attitude was carried into such an international agreement like that of the ENI government of Ghana. And so we found ourselves being embarrassed once again, because consistently in all our international arbitrations that we've gone, we are losing one case after the other under this same Attorney General. And I'll say, look, all of us are sitting and pretending. You asked him a question, he started going around, you asked him, why did the Attorney General issue the statement he issued? He danced around the lawyer, and he's a lawyer. He finds a way of running away from the issue. The man deceived the Ghanaians. He was so dishonest in his, statement. He behaved more like a spin doctor, a PR person, instead of being a lawyer, an advisor, a legal advisor to the government. Because your utterances will advise, for example, agencies under the under the Ministry of Energy to know For example, now GMPC has to now start thinking, how do we now engage these people to go move forward? Because remember that they are partners to that agreement. ENI, sorry, I say ENI, Springfield, as we speak now, until government decides that, look, I still want to go ahead with the unitization, but per what the rulings has been made in terms of the tribunal, that we will go and follow the, what they call, the various processes that we need to do, because government still has the right to do that. That I'll say that, look, we will go through the, what do you call it, scientifically be able to prove that, yes, there are conditions sufficient enough to unitize. Government can do all those things. But your statement even misleads Springfield. And today, if Springfield decides that they are going to develop their field independently, if they say they want to independent, they need to go and look for money. They have to look for money. And sometimes unitization in itself also even helps the state. And that's why I am not against the whole idea of unitization, but it should be done properly.
Very well.
That is all.
Very well. Let me come to Theo. Theo, what's the way forward on this? I mean, where do we, how do we pick up the pieces? How do we move on from here? Now that the arbitral award has been given and seen, how do we pick up the pieces?
No, both parties have got to sit down, right? The point really is that every sovereign state has a right to do or enforce unitization. The court says that nobody disagrees on that. The process is where the disagreement, comes about. And in this instance, it's very, very clear that Ghana had no case from the get-go. In fact, many of us have said this, and you can look at our things that we wrote and not said as far back as 2021, and we've been consistent on this, that we had no case and we had to do the right thing. So the way out is to do the right thing, and the right thing is that appraisal well and the testing has got to be done to confirm that the two fields are indeed, in the dynamic communication that would then warrant the unitization. The second point also is that although the consequential damages, right, the arbitral panel ruled that it cannot be enforced now, it does not mean that if Ghana decides to go ahead and still force a unitization, right, without recourse to the right process, any arbiter cannot claim damages, right? So the ruling is without prejudice, and this comes from even Eni's own statement, to both Eni and Vitor's right to claim damages if these quote-unquote wrongful directives, which the court has set aside, still the government decides to go ahead to enforce it. So very, very clear that the right thing has got to be done. Quickly, I think it's also important to respond to two issues. One, which my brother raised, Kingsley, on Act 919, which is the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act, and then also in relation to the GMPC law, is it 64 or 84, that talks, about the Exploration and Production Act hitherto. So it's important for us to remember, right, that in Ghanaian law, and Kingsley can confirm this, that there's this idea of retroactivity does not apply, and there are cases that actually have been pending and settled before our courts, including there was an issue between GRA and Talu over additional oil entitlement claims and things like that, where again the basis was actually meant to be the old petroleum income tax law. In this instance, the petroleum agreement was signed on the basis of the old law and not Act 919. And the provisions related to that and the stabilization and everything, right, is done on the basis of that old law and not in relation to, Act 919. And even when you look at the old Exploration and Production Act, the one passed in 1984, and you read the petroleum agreement that was signed and all of that, again, the process for unitization and what needs to be done was not exactly laid or detailed out. And even in Act 919 and the LI that accompanies it, the process for unitization and what needs to be done to actually prove right, that two fields are in, indeed connected. It's not well laid out. So again, here I agree a bit with Kingsley that some further refinements would have to be made to the law or the LI to actually clearly detail out what would have to be done to prove that indeed, right, two fields are connected. Because again, you look at the GMPC's own report that they issued, which the minister and others relied on to force this unitization. And it is very clear that the fields are in the same channel, but it is not authoritative. That report itself is not authoritative. You use words like likely, may, etc., which then proves that even they themselves, GMPC itself, was not sure, right, that indeed the two fields are connected. So the right thing is got to be done. What, in my final remark, I want to make is that if you look at the map, right, the block of where the Springfield field sits, and I think I shared it with your producers.
Yeah.
It's in a very good location, right? It sits between, on your west, you've got the Cosmos Jubilee Field, and then on your east, you've got the ENI, OCTP, and even the new discovery that ENI made in Block 4. So for me, as a non-geologist, but also someone who has actually worked in the industry, it is clear that there's potential in that, right, enclave or that block. Two other discoveries had been made earlier before Springfield even drilled the Apina well, right? But we need to do the right thing and ensure that we are fair to all parties in this process. Because after all, if the oil is produced in an optimal manner, of course, Ghana will get some of the revenues. Of course, jobs will be created. Of course, there will be an aspect of local content that will be created. But let us not create this impression that we want to kind of favor one side versus the other without going through the right, scientific processes.
Very well. Thanks so much, Theo Champon. Let me come to Franklin. Franklin, we lost you abruptly, but that's fine. Your concluding remarks on the discussion.
Oh well, look, I think there was a good reason why the awards of damages were not awarded, because clearly the courts obviously understand that there's been some investment, and investor relations are very important, especially to Ghana. We need to, so some room has been allowed for proper negotiation, that call it settlement. I think what the government should do, probably should change the personnel that will sit around this table discussing this matter. And I think they should include independent thinkers and doers who do not care about whether somebody is winning in court or losing in court. And then bring people, independent people, thinkers around the table and have proper negotiations with this. I don't know what's wrong with we Africans. Look, a few years ago, I was in the Doha conversation in 2005, WTO. Instead of sending competent people to go and negotiate these terms about trade and all of that, I saw African ministers, some of them look so hopelessly lost. And these small boys from Harvard and the rest were dribbling them in the green box, red box, if you know trade rules well. I was just having a good laugh. That's it. If you adopt that approach, you continue losing cases and losing cases. Sit around, put a body of assessors, I call them independent assessors, who clearly sit around and value these assets. And I think Bawumia started something which of night. I don't know what happened. He probably was overwhelmed with everything happening from the other side of the government, and so he left it. Value for money conversations. If you have a team that believes in proper value for money conversations, they also believe in qualitative policy making. That's what is lost in this town. Big man should train count. Thank you.
Very well, Franklin Kujo. Kingsley, you have the final word on this.
Yes, unfortunately.
Investment and everything.
Unfortunately, because everyone has said the things that I was about to say, I think that they've all got it.
You are a very honest man. So
I'm going to give you the last word.
Thanks for the vote of thanks. And you see, when my brother's from NDC, you should be careful with this, your attack and your fixation with the AG. You see how calm he is. The moment he started talking about AG, if I was closer to you, would have poked my eyes. Be calm. Be calm, my brother. Be calm. You see, and the AG has caused losses, and it is not that. You see, what I wanted to say is that, and I think that's where I started from. Me as a lawyer and as a petroleum law lecturer, all right, their demands and their prayers, I can poke holes in all of that. I think I started doing that, and the topic changed, the narrative changed. That is not what we are interested in. And this one has lost, and this one has won, and what? That's not what we're interested in. We need, and it is my brother's same government that attacked E&O for just 3%. They have done so well, and whenever I'm in front of my class, I applaud them that they are the same government that awarded a whole field to Springfield. We've moved away from that. And so we need to get Ghanaians, he's talking about participation, either by equity or owning the whole field. We have come to that stage. And so we need. Wait.
They were carried. So the 3%, they were carried.
Okay.
So it's not like
Mr. Host, you are now focusing your.
No. I need to understand what you mean.
I don't even want to go in there.
You're on the floor.
But in the same, we have now moved to this stage where we are now having a Ghanaian entity owning a field. Applaud to all of us, including your government. Now, let's take it forward. How do we protect the Ghanaian interest, the individual actors, as in the entities which are wholly Ghanaian? How do we protect that? How do we also make sure that, because we still require more investors coming in, so that because we are transitioning from this fossil fuel and to other forms of energy, so that we maximize our returns on this, the economic rent, we get it as quickly as possible. In so doing, also doing the technology transfer and providing a level playing field. How do we do that? If someone is going to claim that I've won, we can't even go ahead where we are now.
So start the advice with Attorney General. Start the advice with Attorney General.
You know I can do this to you. You know I can do a lot of this to you. You know that.
No, just focus on me. You
know that's my training as a lawyer.
Sorry.
You know that.
Sorry.
I mean, you can still go ahead.
Sorry.
And you're my brother.
That's my friend.
Your brother is your friend.
You see, so that is more important. From now onwards, going forward, there has to be this analysis done, so that we determine whether there's dynamic communication. It hasn't been done yet. We have to do that. We have to move ahead. My brother Theo is talking about other discoveries and all that. So that place generally is rich in resources. We need to do better in making sure that we move forward on this. I mean, I'll be very happy if Springfield progresses and succeeds. I'll be also happy if A&I does that. I have friends who work there, all right? I have a colleague lecturer who also works there. And things like so, I'll be very happy if they succeed, because then it's a good story for all of us, for the investing community. Remember, the petroleum community is a very niche area, and so every information is out there. All right. So the more we create that enabling environment where we, as individuals, as Ghanaians as well, and the investing community progresses and succeeds, the better. Rather than engaging in this has won and what has won. So in so doing, I would say that. Let's stop attacking this AG and all that. It's not necessary. The AG has won cases. Yeah, but he's doing his job as the AG. As a lawyer, it's not every case that I win. All right. AG has won more cases since he became an AG. Why do you keep on attacking him and getting fixated and whatnot? So let's progress with this.
How do we progress from here?
There has to be this test done. There has to be a report, scientific report. They were talking about a third party. If we should all agree on that third party, all right, a credible one, probably an internationally based one. Come to the table, all of us, including Petroleum Commission, GMPC, all the actors come together and have this test done, so that there's fairness. Remember, the division of the revenue that comes is another complex thing. All right, it's not like a JOA where we have already agreed on. But it's a magnified version of a JOA. So we haven't even gotten there yet. Let's now get it done so we progress, because time is of the essence. The investments that have stalled, there are other people, as I said, the spin-off, other agreements which are all waiting for this to happen. And then we'll progress. And then let's stop this. I've won this.
I see. Well, so that's the discussion here on the ENI Vitol Ghana Arbitral Award and matters arising. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll look at the grand outdooring of NAPO and the matters arising. This is The Big Issue. Don't go away. You're welcome back. This is The Big Issue, the final lap of the program where we look at the MPP's unveiling of NAPO in Kumasi. Of course, it started from the Asante Palace, the Mensha Palace, and ended up at the Jubilee Park where speeches were made. Of course, the Asante made his speech after the team or the duo, Bawumia and NAPO, were introduced to him at the palace. At the park itself, there were speeches from Kennedy Japan, party chairman, general secretary, and all of that. President Akufo-Addo spoke, Bawumia himself spoke, and then the man himself, NAPO, also spoke. But a number of things have come up from that discussion, from those speeches, especially NAPO himself's speech about how he referred to Kwame Nkrumah and all of that, whether the comparison was necessary at all and all of that. So that is it. But this is NAPO on that day speaking in reference to Kwame Nkrumah.
Nana do da kwa Akufo-Addo odon kwa the president wa ba efie watchi ekomo mada meboa efie watchi ekomo nyane ewiase nyina chi kom no na Ghana wode aduane wo me na nyame ase me nyame aye bia ma party no do da wase de di kan anama sabe tie aha bi je me wo dream ye so ya baburu na wo MPP a asema meka chiwa ne se Osom sompa ubako wanim. Osom sompa ubako wanim. Oya test call yo. Oya sadu ajumo. Osom sompa oya day uko wanim. There ebinumri Ghana kodru ya. Na ni da swoni no. Na do dan kwa Akufo-Addo aba. Ama ni to aswanya day aba. Sa na nyame babu amado tabomi aba. Na wasifie papa bi enya day yatsem. Etienne Bijraha. Munina ye kamo. Nena na nadu dan kwa Akufo-Addo ase. No ayebi. Na me afa so ahia Ghana fo nyina. Ki nyefe. Ki nyefe. Sa oye papa no abobra. Na wa wuba. Na wo ba no abedi wade na odi tapade na ire akona nim. Nana do dan kwa Akufo-Addo awo Dr. Bawumia ama na Ghana fo nyina o se bakọ ya no ho efe na ho akono ya di Ghana ni ma ya dai eye ya ti MPP kroi ebi sida ya nyina ya be ka bo ma bia ya adwumade afiwe ami ahye Nana do dan kwa Akufo-Addo ebi se odun kwa Dr. Bawumia be dai obeba ebi siwa MPP boda Ghana ha ya chechi Ghana abakosama President Akufo-Addo call retirement. But if the Mr. Case will say, a free say Ghana from 1957. Ever can the president be our Ghana chain and Ado than Akufo-Addo? Messi a free 1957. Back on there, one form of Kwame Nkrumah, one form of Obia, the Wabadi Mampania, one book Ghana who buy, and the Ghana call a name, chain and Ado than Akufo-Addo.
All right, so that is the running mate for Dr. Bawumia, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh. So portions of the speech you just heard, the part that compared Nana Addo to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, did not sit well with people, especially the part where he referred to Kwame Nkrumah as your Kwame Nkrumah. That felt like unpresidential, or if you like, un-vice presidential, and that was not a forum to do that. I don't know what you think. But let me start off with Kingsley. Kingsley, you are with the MPP, and of course, I know you were not at the event, so you were in court. But you know, what's your view on the commentary that has come or arisen from this particular event? Did this event really do justice to the objective of it?
Thank you. And I remember I was here last week and spoke about NAPO's drive and all that, and the fact that he compliments His Excellency Dr. Bawumia, the incoming president, very well. And I stick to that, I stand by that. I think he complements him very well. His drive, his achieving of results, and all that. And even the president confirmed that when he needed someone to lift from the book, free education, and make it a reality, he relied on Napo to achieve that. So that is a feather in his cap. No one disagrees with that. I think, again, touching the base where my party gets its majority of its votes from. And if I remember rightly, the last time it cancelled about 5 or so regions, the vote margins, what we got from the Ashanti region alone cancelled that. That is important, and we cannot neglect that base. And so looking at those, that is why we did it the way we did it. Of course, there's a drawback issue as to what you've just played. And the same me sitting here last week, I talked about the visionary quality of Nkrumah. And I told you, I'm UP. But Nkrumah, he has several other issues, human rights issues and whatnot. But with him as a visionary leader, to the extent that the international community always hail him, all right? To the extent that some of the policies he put in place, years afterwards, we said, no, Nkrumah was right about this. And that is going to reflect on several other things His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo has done. Certain things we may not have agreed or he may not gel well with us now. But years after he is gone, maybe even way after we have also left, people say Nana Addo extended free education to the whole of Ghana. That is good, you see. So these are the issues we look at. Of course, there's a lot of discussions and interpretations and explanations you can give as to Nkrumah, all right? And you see, I'll refer to what my learned senior Ayuko said, that on a political platform, you may seize me and say one or two.
So he had probably.
So
he had probably.
Sorry?
So he also was infected with the same.
No, but you see, we have moved on from that because he's come to apologize. All right? And he has emphasized on what he meant. And even said that to him, his personal view is that His Excellency President Akufo-Addo has done better than all. That is his view. And he's allowed to express his view, even on a political platform. Okay? And so that is of no moment. And people are thinking that, and therefore his image is dented, and he has now confirmed that he is arrogant and whatnot. This issue of arrogance, someone being arrogant, all right, I think we must posit it within the appropriate context. If someone is expressive enough, I'm sure you would have heard in certain contexts that, oh, he's arrogant because you express yourself.
You're asking me what?
I'm saying, I'm sure you. Okay. Yeah, you're confirming it. Yes.
Not that one.
You've confirmed it. Yeah.
I don't even know what you're asking.
So you confirmed it. You see. So if you're expressive and articulate and probably suave, you dress well, certain contexts, oh, he's arrogant. All right. So we fail to distinguish between assertiveness and results-drivenness and arrogance. Okay. Now, if the person was arrogant, he wouldn't have apologized. He's apologized. He wouldn't have apologized.
But apology could have been forced out of him, because now he's not just. He doesn't represent himself.
Yeah.
So the larger party can say, my guy,
the statement says that.
You have to apologize so that
but,
we have our
but you're assuming that.
Yeah, I'm assuming. But you're also assuming that.
No, I'm not assuming that.
You know, if he was not arrogant, he wouldn't have apologized.
I have made a statement of fact that he's apologized.
Yes, that we all know.
That shows that he is not arrogant.
Not necessarily. Arrogant people apologize for various reasons.
It shows he's apologized. It means that his humility is out there for all of us to see. Okay? And that if he was adamant in insisting that, no, he didn't make any mistake.
But did you hear him when he went to the chief in the Western
North?
The Western North.
Yes.
That sometimes when you speak the truth, people say you don't respect or something.
Yeah.
So that was a day after he made the statement.
Yes.
So the reason why people think that the apology might have been forced from him is that the following day, after he reflected on the statement, he didn't feel he said anything wrong.
Okay. So you see, Nabo has apologized. We cannot now be reading into whether someone forced him and whatnot. And I could have come here to say that, okay, when it comes to free education, Nkrumah did it just in the northern sector. Now it's extended. I've come in to say that years after Nkrumah has gone, even though he built the Kosovo Dam and whatnot, we are still talking about electricity penetration to rural areas and whatnot. And that's argument to be made. That's an argument to be made. So if he holds that view, all right, he legitimately holds that view, and that's what he was explaining to the people of Western North. Okay? That Yajima Noesi Bonne. That's what he was saying. In even his letter of apology, he said that it is his personal view that this is the case. And we cannot begrudge him for holding that. We can only debate. My brothers can only debate him on that.
You see, what I was saying is that the apology.
As to the apology
he
came within the same week, matter of days. He apologized. I think we can move on. Sorry?
It's a matter close.
We can move on from here and look at what he brings to the ticket. That is what, for us, that's what we're looking at. What does he bring to the ticket? Okay? I mean, we can also go up and talk about what other people have said on the political platform, which they have not apologized for. All right? And probably also throw this mud on them that, oh, then you're arrogant. I don't think I personally am interested in that.
Okay.
I want to talk about what does he bring to the ticket. And he brings a lot to the ticket. And let's focus on those.
So the purpose for his coming, more or less, as we've been told, is that he's a guy to energize the base. So you think that the thing that happened a few days ago, his unveiling, really energized the base?
Oh, yes. You see, let's just suppose against how my brother's party did theirs to the honorable professor. And I keep on saying, I studied English and she taught English and is a professor of that. So I always give her that respect. Now, you see, when it's scripted in a confined area like UPSA, where everything is controlled and state managed. So afterwards, because it's scripted, you can pick portions of it and put it out there on social media and in traditional media for it to trend. That's so easy to do. But even that, it didn't go that far. It didn't go. Do you remember some of the things he said now?
Yes, I do.
Like what?
That it's a promise that there will be the guys in office now who have appropriated, who have misappropriated.
That is Mahama saying that.
She said it.
That's Mahama saying
it's a promise.
Now, it is not being discussed anymore.
What
I know, but from now onwards, when it comes to, we're talking about politics of it, the discussion, how NAPO has galvanized the base, provided a feeling booster to the base. That is clear.
That the base is energized. So that's
exactly.
Fine. Let me go to
exactly.
quickly.
So see, we could also take portions of what he said and let it trend. It is our political strategy. Who decide? Who?
Trending.
My brother, I warned you. My brother, you are not about to talk.
No,
you will never end any sentence. And this is not a threat.
It's a promise.
It's a promise.
So okay, let's conclude for me. I'll be going to Franklin.
I beg.
You see? So that is what we talk about. Yeah. And the energy and all that.
Let me go and find my voter ID card. Let me go and look for my voter ID card.
And that's what for us. That's what we want. we need, because we and all the levels of percentage we want to get. We are all adventurous with that. All of us, we're adventurous with that. They are saying they want maybe a huge proportion of the votes in the Ashanti region. We're also saying that we'll increase ours and all that. We are pegged at 85. The facts show that at a certain margin, if we get that, it becomes difficult for my brothers in NDC. The facts also show that if they also exceed a certain margin,
then it means it
is not in the 85 and the 40, whatever we're talking about. So realistically, their margin is there. But we want to do that and keep it at that point. And that is the focus of we, MPP, and my senior brother, Dr. Matthew Poko Prempe, the incoming Vice President of Ghana.
Franklin, I mean, watching from the sidelines, is there anything wrong with comparing one president with the other? Of course, people have said politics is a game of comparison. So why should we not cut NAPO some slack?
Well, thank you very much. I think the question is a legitimate question, really, and there's a need for comparison. And upon hindsight, I think many people could have probably be saying something similar. I think I've seen some news items dating back to even Rawlings's time when somebody said Rawlings is far ahead of Nkrumah. I saw those, and I kept saying that every era has some levels of political idiocy, which is allowed. You know, we allow these things. But you know, one of the challenges I had, I think the backbone of which my good friend Napo delivered that statement, and even to think about the fact that if you match it against reality, it's just not true. You know, I kept saying that probably the only near truth to comparing Nanado to Nkrumah is that they both bankrupted the economies by the time they were leaving power. By the time they were forced out of power, by the way, they are both bankrupted the economies. But Nanado much more, because Nanado had much more freer money, and actually should have been a bit more wiser because he had so much to learn from previous leaders and previous pitfalls. So maybe that's the only comparison I can make. But in terms of real, actual, you know, pound for pound, no, not at all, not at all, not at all. I mean, maybe another one. Not listening, not paying attention, not listening to any sound advice. Nkrumah at the point was quite stubborn. Remember, people say that it was because of the times in which he found himself, the opposition from opposition from many people, especially the UP extraction. But anyway, whatever it was, he became dictatorial and all of that. I'm not saying another is dictatorial, but he had those tendencies. Look at Domelevo's treatment. Look at not listening to any sound advice. Just nothing really goes on. This guy, he's close. If I ask on another, he said he's finished his race. So anything we say, he doesn't even care. Right? So maybe those tendencies are there, but in actual fact, pound for pound, no. It's like daylight and darkness. But he's permitted to have done that. I don't even know why he actually apologized because, frankly speaking, that's what he believes in, right? He believes in that. I thought that we're just getting lessons in economic history, new lessons in economic history, and probably we should check our boxes. A lot of the history of Ghana is actually wrong. So wrong. If you match them against what really has happened, those who have taken their time to methodically, decide the process, you're there. And you see, some of these things that my good friend Napo said also betrays a certain trust in part of our history. Because if you look at this administration, they've changed a number of things. I think Republic Day no longer celebrated, right? I think we don't have Republic Day. We now
it's not commemorated, yes.
And all those kinds of things. I mean, I'm sure Ronaldo, if we should change everybody's name in actual So this is just trying to rewrite history. It doesn't wash. This administration has had the most money. In fact, when the whole look at Kenya, compare what's happening in Kenya to Ghana. Kenya 4.6% inflation, official rates. Average interest rates are just about 18%. We went all the way to 54% and started coming down to 22. Almost all the economic indices have tanked. And I don't think you want to compare that at all to what in previous government. Even JM's governance, if you look at the economic indices, let's be fair and let's be truthful to ourselves. Look, let's not do politics with some of these things. Everything should be reduced. What I used to buy in 2016, 2015 is no longer the same today. And I think I want Napo to address those issues. He's left a legacy close to $2 billion in energy debt as we speak. He should address those issues. And that's exactly what I expect to hear from him. I don't think this comparison do us any good.
Very well, thanks. Thanks, Franklin. All right, so Bawa, let's hear you on this. I mean, Franklin says there's no problem with comparing Nkrumah to Nanado to Nkrumah and all of that. Indeed, others have done same in the past. People compared Rawlings to Nkrumah, even Mahama and Mills and all of that. So there's nothing really wrong with that. So why should you take on Napo when he seeks to do something others have done in the past?
No, they say, so Napo expressed his opinion. So people also reserve the right to also express their opinion and run commentaries and judgment values on his comments. That is equally legitimate. So, but the fact that he himself has come out, and I want to side with you when you indicate that this apology was forced out.
I say it might have been
No,
forced.
there's evidence to it.
That
This claim it was forced out.
Now you're really inviting me to come in.
Now look at them.
Now you're really inviting me to come in.
You didn't promise that.
I promise
that. Listen.
There's evidence.
You withdrew your
There's
promise.
in his own statement. In his own statement, the second paragraph, he says that the statement reflects my personal opinion about President Akufo-Addo's impact relative to other presidents we have had. So that was a clear indication that what he said, he believed in it. The apology that has come is the apology is a contradiction of this.
No.
Because if you have believed, for example, I believe that Kwame Nkrumah, sorry, what was the name? Nanado is better than Kwame Nkrumah. And I believe in that. And I capture it.
Apologizing for the way he said it.
No, he has not stated that. I can't be judging that. I'm just judging from what he has said. His second paragraph talks about the fact that as that reflects his own thing. The induction I can make from this, I can deduce from this that, look, if he says this reflects his own opinion, it means that the apology in itself may not necessarily be his, but the body that he belongs to.
So see, I wish to emphasize that I never meant to disrespect our former president.
You see, I agree with you. I agree with that. But I'm just saying that looking at the second one, everything that he said, so there's a mechanics of it and the intent of it. The mechanics is what you are talking about. But the intention, the whole idea, what he said is what he said. He meant what he said.
That
hitting Nanado was this.
But there's nothing.
Yes, I'm coming. Yeah. I say that's it. But now let me come to the issues. So you have a gentleman who, about weeks to his his announcement, because I mean it was an open secret. Everybody knew that Napo was going to be the running mate. People then decided to rely on his checkered history of utterances that portray a person who is arrogant. Indeed, it didn't just end there. You have a situation where even the day that he was supposed to be adored, when he went to his what's the name, the overlord of the Ashanti people, the man had told him very clearly that, look, people say you are arrogant, but that is not the way I brought you up. Go and prove to them that you are not. Then that same day, he goes to make something that seems to confirm even the suspicion and what the Otufo himself had heard. People are very clear in their minds. And so when people drew their attention to, for example, at the time when Ghanaians were suffering seriously, yes, it may not even be your fault. You understand? But it may not be your fault that something is happening. The manner in which you communicate to the people, for example, the issue of load shedding, then the manner in which you even describe people that they are doomsayers, they wish evil for this country. At a time when a journalist was legitimately asking you, look, we are suffering from power curtailment. Give us a schedule to follow so that we can plan our lives around it. People say this, and you describe them as people who are, they wish evil for this country. So that was one. Two, you have a situation where in the implementation of the SHS, people are talking about the challenges our kids were going through in schools. Then you had the offensive as the sector minister to tell them that if they think that they do not have the facilities that they have, they should go and do their daily doings in polythene bags and throw them away. This is a sector minister who was saying this to kids. This was the same person when people were struggling to have their children being placed in SHS.
I'm not interrupting you.
Yes.
But again, your hand, has too much.
No.
If I'm closer to you, you poke my eyes.
And I know that the distance is in.
So no, but still bring it down.
That your plan that you want to cut me.
I'm not cutting you. I'm not cutting you. But still, calm down.
So the point is that when you have a situation where at place, parents and kids were collapsing because they were desperate to find their kids in school. The kids wanted to continue with their education. Then you will openly say that, these were people who were bashed by the former president and brought there to stage manage that particular incident. Only for you at the place, because you know in parliament you have to swear by an oath, and therefore anything beyond that, if you lie, that will be perjury. Only for you to go to your appointments committee and then say that, look, it was not true and I apologize. I'm telling you, this is the history of the person. So when you have such a baggage,
so he's apologized before.
Oh, hold on.
That's positive.
Now he apologized because he needed approval.
No,
but you see, let me make my
that's
point.
positive.
Let me
It means
make my
that he
point.
admits his fault when he's at fault.
Oh.
He apologizes.
No, look, you see, it's about his level of how he's not sensitive. Look at the Keta case. Look at the Keta case. When a budget allocation had been done in 2022, because these were people who were suffering from the tidal waves of what they call it, the sea. And people were being homeless, people's houses were being consumed by the sea and other things. And a budget allocation is made. Then you are bold enough to go on national radio to state that if this thing is approved, you will tell your people in Manchia that to also get up and demonstrate.
He didn't say Manchia.
He said in Ashanti.
In Ashanti. Okay, so let me use the word.
KGTR.
So that is even okay. So you even know the story. I'm happy that you know the story.
Yeah, of
so
course
if you
I
have
know.
a second person,
Is my man. So
and this is the person who is supposed to tell Ghanaians that look, vote for me to take care of you. He is not going to be voted to be, for example, the vice president of Ashanti region. He's going to be the vice president of the Republic of Ghana. And every Ghanaian who calls himself a citizen is supposed to be under his, leadership. So if you have such a person, and you openly make a statement like that, it becomes problematic. But now let's even to the facts. And I think, what's his name?
You have a few seconds to wrap up.
Yeah, Franklin had made some of these things. For the first time in our, I'm not even using Kwame Nkrumah. You see, the Kwame Nkrumah's time, you are not there, you are not there, you are not there. So all of us, we just heard. So let's not go to the Kwame Nkrumah's issue. Let's just use 1992, this current constitution that we are dealing with. It is only under Akufo-Addo that we have defaulted. That we have borrowed money, and we've told the people we have borrowed money from that, you see, me, my Jew seeker, it's only under Akufo-Addo. It is only under Akufo-Addo that you have inflation going up to 54%. It is only under Akufo-Addo that you have unemployment going about 14.7%. And this man, who has a background in science because he's a medical doctor, am I right? And where you deal with data, you can go and stand in front of the people that you thought you were leading and lie this way and indicate that, that he was the best. Because
so now,
the reason why.
So now we're not dealing with arrogance. We're dealing with the appropriateness or whether or not what he said is true or not.
The last part of it.
We can talk about that. We can debate that.
I'm just
But just about him being
but
arrogant.
I told friends that you people should understand Napo. Do you know what they should understand him? Everybody knows, it's an open secret that Nanado did not want Napo to be the running mate.
No, you
this
can't
was an
say
opportunity
that.
to see how he will convince
there's no
that,
you cannot say
you
this.
are against me,
I
am going to put you
down.
That is it.
You have lowered the standard of everything you said here.
On that note, on that note,
you have lowered everything you have said here.
On that note, we conclude today's program. My name is Salam Adonu. You heard Kingsley, Amwako Abuedu, and then Edward Bauer, MP for Bongo. Thanks so much for doing the listening, the viewing. My name is Salam Adonu once again. Catch you same time next week. Have a good afternoon.